Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and we are back after being gone. We didn't have a show last Easter, but we are back tonight with some incredible guests for the first time on the show. Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari, if I pronounce that right. Hopefully, Mustafa, I got that right. You might remember them from A&E's Ghost Hunters back in 2019. I think they have 2 seasons, I believe. I didn't get to see any of it because I don't have cable, so I haven't seen a lot of the ghost hunting shows. But they have written a book, The Elements of a Haunting, connecting history with science to uncover the greatest ghost stories ever told. And I've read this thing, and it is awesome. As a paranormal investigator, I truly love their take on, classifications of hauntings, the method of haunting, and they really get into history on a number of cases. We'll get into that tonight. We'll be talking all things ghost, of course. And then we have the World Wide Web of Weird. We got a lot to get to always when we're gone for 2 weeks. There's always a bunch. I have to pick and choose what I'm going to do in the World Wide Web of Weird. But we definitely got some good stuff. And, of course, we'll take your phone calls later in the show. Just hang in there if you want to call in, join the discussion night, ask Brandon or Mustafa some questions tonight. You'll be welcome to call in second half of the show. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guests, Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari, will be joining us after the World Wide Web of Weird, after our first commercial break. Joining me, as always, every Sunday night is my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing well, thank you.
And I see, as well, our other beautiful co-host from St. Augustine, Florida, hopefully with us here in good health, is Rob Autry. How you doing tonight, Rob?
I'm beautiful. I'm not in good health, but I'm here.
I know, man. Hang in there as long as you can tonight, but thank you for joining. Rob runs the World Wide Web of Weird, and we got a lot of weird to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight in the World Wide Web Weird, I thought I'd talk about this first article. Is there alien tech living at the bottom of the sea? You know that asteroid we talked about months and months and months ago? They believe it exploded over Papua New Guinea. The one I butchered the name of back in 2017, Omama, or Omamana, but they thought this asteroid was very much peculiar, that it could be possibly artificial, maybe a spacecraft, and then it crashed somewhere in the ocean. Well, one scientist thinks it may be an alien craft. Still. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup Radio Network, we are a webcast. We do stream live out to Facebook, YouTube, and even Twitch, where you can watch, or you can just stay on the radio network and listen. I'll narrate as horrible as I usually do, no, as best as possible. All right, so this first one, earlier this month, and I got some unexplained mysteries. Earlier this month, it was revealed by the U.S. Space Command that a fast-moving fireball which exploded over Papua New Guinea 8 years ago actually originated from outside our solar system, predating the discovery of interstellar visitor Omama. Oh, it's predating that, sorry. Whatever remained of this object, if anything, would have ended up falling to the bottom of the ocean. According to Loeb, something to consider is whether such an object, especially if it has come from interstellar space, has potential to be a piece of extraterrestrial technology. Given its small size and vast area in which it now lies, however, finding it would be a tough ask. Yeah, imagine looking for that on the ocean. Even so, Loeb has an answer to this. He's suggesting that using scoping magnets that could scour vast swaths of the Pacific seafloor for fragments of this and other interstellar visitors. That's the thing. It might not find that, but there could be other stuff down at the bottom of the ocean. I mean, spacecrafts crash like they did at Roswell. How many of them crashed in the ocean at some point? Are the aliens even retrieving it? Are they just laying there at the bottom? Remember the one that looks like the Millennium Falcon? What's the name of that? I can't ever remember. Better still, perhaps some technological components would survive the impact. Of course, the question is currently impossible to answer, and the chances of such a likelihood seem slim. However, Loeb has set his sights on one day getting his hands on such a find. My dream is to press some buttons on a functional piece of equipment that was manufactured outside of the Earth. Yeah, I think your government's beating you to that. They've crashed here on land, obviously. All right, next up. Another thing we've talked about quite a bit on the show over a number of different episodes of guests is the Shroud of Turin. And one person, David Rolfe, is challenging the British Museum to recreate the Onyx Shroud to prove that it's a forgery for $1 million, right? The famous shroud, which many believe to be the brutal burial cloth of Jesus himself, has been the subject of debate for years. Radiocarbon dating suggested that the shroud is not actually from the time of Jesus at all, but from the medieval period. However, conflicting studies and opinions have made it difficult to reach a definitive conclusion over its origins, and millions of people continue to believe that it really does bear the image of Christ. We've had people on here that have refuted all the testing they did. You know, I think we were given pretty good reasons. One, that the cloth was touched up after a fire, and that's one of the reasons carbon dating was off. You know, but David Rolfe here, creator of the Silent Witness, in 1978 documentary for the Turin Shroud in modern times, is now asking for a $1 million bet if they can prove that it's a forgery. Recreated, he's saying, basically. You can read this whole article. I don't want to run out of time. But he's telling him, okay, if it's a forgery, it was made in medieval times, show us how it was done. Because if you look at the Shroud of Turin, you really get into the rabbit hole of it. I'd like to see him try that too. Because it's not painted on. Yeah. And they have to use medieval technology to do it.
Everything that they used.
Yep.
And had available.
Show us how it's done. Show us how it's done. I think that's a great bet.
I think so.
All right, this next one I've been seeing all over Facebook on the Bigfoot front. And Rob, there's like photo A, B, and C. This is from Kenny Walker on Facebook. Mobile County Sheriff's Office, and this is an update that they posted, just validated the photos, and finding Bigfoot team has been deployed to Big Creek Lake in Wilmer, Alabama. I will update as information comes in. A Wilmer man is happy to be safe at home after a scary incident while turkey hunting near Tanner Williams Road. The person who wishes to remain anonymous spotted a Bigfoot in the woods on the water edge and took these amazing photographs of the beast. At first, I thought it was a grizzly bear, but once I got a better look at it, I realized it was definitely a Sasquatch. Mobile County Sheriff's Department is currently examining these photos, but they are expected to verify their authenticity. Blah, blah, blah. Can't talk soon. This is a developing story, more to come. So far, I haven't seen anything else come of it. Now, I would say for somebody to be a witness and actually take it to the sheriff's department means something. from what I see, people will usually hoax something, they'll just share it online. They're not going to get the police involved. They don't want to do that if they know it's a hoax. So this person might have really saw something. They're taking it to the sheriff's department to actually investigate this. Now, is it a guy in a suit? He just happened to run a pie. Why would he be out there? I don't know. But I've seen a lot of people sharing that story and talking about it. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, it's a blurry image, as always. I mean, he's taking it across the lake, and this is a zoom in of it. Seen a lot blurrier, though.
Yeah. Bigfoot's just like chilling. He's not in a hurry.
It looks like he's got those monstrous arms, those biceps, like that other video that I thought was pretty impressive we played months ago. Remember? Yep. Looks like he got the same kind of arms. It's hard to tell. You can't tell size. You don't know what you're comparing it to.
And I always wonder, like, so after, like, did they happen to look at the footprints?
That would be something maybe the sheriff's department is doing, but they won't say.
Oh, okay.
But this guy, it sounds like he got out of Dodge. He took the pictures and got out, which I don't blame him. I would not suggest, if that's really a Bigfoot, to go ride your boat over there and go get pictures of the prints right after it left, or look for its Bigfoot scat poop. I wouldn't do that. You're going to have a bad time.
No, poke it with a stick.
Hey, I'm all good I'm all good walking into the paranormal, like ghosts and stuff like that. But if Bigfoot's real, it's a wild animal. I don't feel like getting my arms ripped off.
I'm perfectly fine with wildlife.
You go for it, Jamie.
I will go for it.
Let's hope it's a Harry and Henderson's Bigfoot for you. I'm just saying. Hashtag Legend of Big Creek Lake.
Against the 30-06.
Yeah, you don't want to shoot the Bigfoot. I wouldn't want to be put in a position to shoot something that probably is endangered.
But if I got it and attacked.
Yeah, it's coming right for us. Yeah, I don't know if they should
shoot him in the ding ding.
I think whoever ends up, if anybody ever ended up shooting Bigfoot and killing it and proving it, would be social media would destroy them. I think there'd be a lot of pissed off people.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Another Bigfoot story, but this one is from Argentina. I read the article from Coast to Coast. Tim Binnall's the shorter version than the original article here. A farmer in Argentina claims to have had a terrifying encounter with the country's legendary Bigfoot-like creature known as Ucamar, if that's how I'm saying it right. And that run-in with the mysterious beast left him deeply disturbed. According to a local media report, the very strange incident occurred earlier this month in a small community south of the city of Salta. At the conclusion of a soccer game he had been following on the radio, the unnamed witness noticed the dogs were causing a commotion outside. Thinking that perhaps a person or animal was trying to steal his corn, the diligent farmer exited his house with a flashlight and walked right into the nightmare that has haunted him ever since. As he journeyed down a dark path on his property, the man cast the light ahead of him and saw with his own eyes something incredible that I would never imagine. The astonished farmer later recalled that there was this scene. It was like a big, hairy, dark-colored gorilla. It was walking slowly. It was very robust. It looked where I was, and I saw his red eyes. And then he went into the bush. The startled man said that he was too scared to follow the creature. See, good idea. Yeah, good survival instinct. Instead, he understandably ran back to the house, locked himself inside the residence where he spent the night, unable to sleep to do what he had just experienced. After the farmer's unsettling story was covered by a prominent media outlet in Argentina, the tale went viral on social media in the country. Sadly, it would seem that there is no language barrier when it comes to the ridicule and paranormal, as his wild account was mocked by many online that said he was unmoved by the response, later declaring, "I know there are all kinds of comments and jokes, but I would never lie. I assure you that I've seen that hairy beast." While the roasting on social media may not bother the man, the memory of what he saw apparently does, as he claims that he has suffered from physical ailments believed to be brought on by fright. Shedding a bit more on the light of the creature's appearance, man indicated it stood approximately 5.5 feet tall. So this is more like skunk ape, it's not very tall. 5.5 feet tall, and although it somewhat resembled a gorilla, it was unlike anything he had ever seen before. That was not something human, he mused, nor was it a common animal. To that end, it was widely believed that many in the area of that farmer encountered the Ucamar, which is a legendary creature in Argentina that is described as somewhat akin to Bigfoot, although smaller, and often described as being more bear-like. The curious case follows another Ucamar sighting which made headlines back in 2019, following discovering multiple prints believed to belong to the mysterious beast. So I like hearing about the different ones, Ucamar. So that's Argentina, and it's a shorter one, like Florida's, skunk ape. Bigfoot comes in all shapes and sizes. I still wouldn't go after the 5-foot one. Not at all.
No, I'm going to let it pass.
Yeah. Okay. Now, let's get on to some haunting stuff tonight, because we're definitely be talking about ghosts. Sorry, I needed coffee. All right, another one from Unexplained Mysteries. Creepy figure shows up in photo in notoriously haunted jail. And I think I have a couple. I think photo A and photo B, maybe photo C. No, just photo A and photo B. So this is the original photo they got up here, taken by Candace Collins. And this happened, I think, 15 years ago. She just recently ran across the photo. And it's pretty, I think it's something people are saying pareidolia. I don't know. Built in 1779 before closing down, 1927, Bodham Jail, which I think a lot of people have seen on TV shows and have heard about, is nestled at the edge of Bodham Moor in Cornwall, England, where it has since been turned into a hotel, museum, and gift shop. Over the years, its haunted reputation has also attracted the attention of numerous ghost hunting shows, paranormal investigators, and others keen to experiencing something unexplained. One such visitor was Candace Collins, who 15 years ago was captured on camera next to an unexpected extra. Ghost photo bomb, remember? We had that? The image, which was lost until very recently when she moved a house and found again, has since been generating a great deal of interest on social media. I caught some fantastic paranormal evidence at Bodham Jail before it was turned into a hotel. This was a snap of a camera while walking around taking pictures. It's a full-body spirit of an old man in a suit with glasses and hairline that is in my photograph when we're the only people there. I moved houses shortly after taking the picture and lost it on the move. I looked everywhere for this picture for years, couldn't find it till I was going through an old folder yesterday, and there it was. I was amazed to find it after all this time. The ghost, which is visible on the right-hand side, does resemble the shape of a figure. However, it's unclear if it's generally paranormal or simply a case of pareidolia, the tendency for heat. Of course, they're going to explain it. You should know what pareidolia is if you're watching the show. Zoomed in, yeah, I get it. It could be pareidolia. There's no concrete image of a person there. It could be just the textures of what's there. You would need a recreation photo. This is 15 years later. I would need another picture, infrared light that they're using, I assume there.
And it's a little blurry and kind of distorted, but it does look like a collar. It does look like maybe a vest, arm.
And like they're just sitting there peeking over.
Yeah.
Go back to the original again one more time, which is in the first one. There. Now, there's like a cut in that picture. Is that the way that they cut or edit it? I was trying to find what's the original picture and I couldn't get it. Is that I wonder if that's the original or if they cut a slice. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It seems weird the way that it's split
right there.
I don't know. That might be a wall and that's inlaid. I don't know. I'd have to see the surroundings. It's hard to say. When people show you their paranormal pictures as investigators, not much I can say. It looks interesting. I'd have to know more about it, where it was taken, recreations, other photos in the same spot, That's why I like EVPs. I would love to have, not to say I would love to get a ghost photo. We've had some in my team and my group on stuff. I've never caught anything, but I don't take enough photos. I let them do it, and I focus on the audio part and video. I should not got much on video either. All right. We're going to run out of time here. Where am I? All right, let's move on. We got another this one I think is South African. We've had a lot of South American and South African kids going crazy in school from spirits or ghosts or demons. This one's an elementary school this time in South Africa. This is another one from Tim Binnell from Coast to Coast AM. An elementary school in South Africa was forced to cancel, and I got the original article up here, but like I said, Tim Binnell always makes a very shorter article. Elementary school in South Africa was forced to cancel classes for the day after several children reportedly being physically attacked by an aggressive apparition resembling a little old lady. The bizarre incident reportedly occurred last Thursday morning at the Fakamasani Primary School, I probably butchered that, in the community of Plettenberg Bay, when several youngsters claimed that a short granny-like figure with dreadlocks had appeared before them in the classroom. Eerily, it was said that the suspected spirit was only visible to the students, and it proceeded to slap the children until they threw salt at it. While the very weird account may sound like some kind of mischief on the part of the students in the form of a prank being played on their teachers, the terror that was swept over the classroom was seemingly very real. Administrators at the school were forced to cancel classes over the unfolding furor and call pupils' parents to retrieve their children. Excitement over what was happening at school spread quickly on social media in the area to the point that word actually reached the mayor of the community, David Swart, who visited the school to see if everything is under control. Offering an update to the social situation, a local reporter, he relayed the remarkable story with sincerity, explaining that it seems like the kids saw an old lady in one of the classrooms, and either this old lady chased them or she just disappeared. He went on to indicate that there's a bit of uncertainty as to what this woman was doing, if she exited or if she existed, and they're looking into that. It would appear that the investigation turned up no sign of any interloper matching the description of the mysterious ghost granny. You know, there is the game granny online. I don't know if these kids were playing Granny in South Africa. I mean, my kids play it. I don't know. Could be their imagination. Or it's just something that's there, and these kids can see it, and nobody else can. But Granny with dreadlocks. That would be scary. All right. We don't want to run out of time here. That was that one. All right. And last one. Near-death experiences explored in peer-reviewed study. And we mentioned that there's been a number of different studies. You got Bigelow has his own funding for near-death and life-after-death proof that he's looking into. This one, new research into what happens when we die has yielded some interesting data about near-death experiences. The research, which involved an international multidisciplinary team of scientists, aimed to study near-death experiences or recalled experience of death. RED, I never heard that one before, while also laying the groundwork for future research into the subject. Scientists found that some experiencers seem to exhibit signs of lucidity despite being outwardly unconscious, while studies of the brain indicated anomalous activity and electrical spikes indicated of heightened states of consciousness in those midst of such experiences. Thus, the study of consciousness and lucidity during cardiac arrest and terminal lucidity during the end-of-life experience suggests that paradoxically, people deemed to have irreversibly lost consciousness may in fact maintain a component of consciousness, they wrote. They concluded that this research conducted thus far could neither, my article's messed up, neither prove or disprove the phenomenon. Means, you know, a lot of times it said it's just the brain shutting down and it's the chemical response, but then when they look at it, the time frames of what people describe and all that, it's like, well, at this point, there really should nothing going on in the brain. During the research also highlighted the possibility a person who has died could potentially be revived hours or even days afterwards, so long as their cells have not deteriorated too much. From a scientific perspective, death remains potentially reversible for as long as the underlying cellular processes have not reached biological irreversibility. You know, we were talking about, I think, 2 weeks ago on the show about all these billionaires wanted to basically have immortality, you know, either by uploading their consciousness to some virtual afterlife or putting their consciousness in a robot, or by freezing their body and bringing it back to life, like Walt Disney style. And that might be possible. The original article came from Jerusalem Post. I was reading this from Unexplained Mysteries. But the idea that, you know, of bringing people back after they've been dead, I don't know how close we are to that, but
I saw Pet Sematary, man. I know how the movie ends.
Yeah, don't do it. You know, bad cat. Yeah, Pet, you know, shouldn't come back. Dead should stay dead.
Yeah.
Then why give him the cemetery? That movie that Stephen King story in the movie drives me nuts. Is the neighbor, the guy who takes him to the cemetery.
Yep.
Like, okay. Seriously, oh my God, that movie drives me nuts. It's like, okay, you're warning him not to do it. It's like you're tempting him, aren't you? You're tempting him, Herman Munster. You're
warning him not to do it, but showing him how to do it.
Yeah, but shouldn't do that. But here, this is where you bury him. This is how you do it.
A lot of good cats and dogs died on that road.
Yeah. Buries the cat there, I think, first. Well, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But, you know, I do think, I love this, the study of near-death experience to prove that there is an afterlife to people. You know, like I said, I don't think in the movie The Discovery of Robert Redford, where, you know, they prove the afterlife somehow and then people start killing themselves. I don't think that would happen. But it might prove to people that they don't want to upload to some metaverse when they die. That's what I'm saying. In that show Upload, the people are trying to re-download themselves into a body. So the whole point of it is eventually to live forever, like all that. But well, how do we sustain that kind of population? There's a greater journey out there.
You know my thoughts about all this stuff.
Yeah, I know. And like, if you were given the choice of immortality, would you take it? Temporary immortality. I would like to live longer. You know, what do the people in the chat room say? I don't know, but we do have your comments. We can show. Totally would pass on that. I prefer to see. This is from King of who said, I don't know how you say that. Mundo? I don't know. Immortality, I would pass on that, and I'd prefer to see what's out there. That's what I say, you know. But I mean, I'd like to have longer life extension for a little bit longer. I get that. But eventually, as long as I get to play out the journey. What'd she say?
I'm
Yeah,
just
I like to
good
make-
with
They were-
whatever I'm supposed to do. Not cutting
Would people
it
be the same?
short.
But this is my question too. If you freeze somebody, okay, let's say you freeze somebody and potentially bring them back years after they passed on. You bring them back. Is it them? There's some great horror movies based on that
Okay,
premise.
so
But-
if you're thinking of it like, say a fish who like froze, but then like got thawed out and was still alive again, they're like, oh, we brought this person back from the dead. Yeah, I think it would still be the same thing, but if you froze them,
But is their consciousness frozen, or are they on the other side?
will that be, are you in a coma that whole time, like in a hibernation coma?
See, I don't believe the consciousness would be frozen at that point. I believe if you brought somebody back, they would have had a long journey on the other side. Would they remember it when they came back is the question, if that's them that comes back.
I would
Yeah.
see it as like being in a coma or like when you hibernate.
I
I'd
don't
just
know.
be happy if my dogs lived longer normally.
Yeah,
You know, I'm
Yeah.
good with what happens to me.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, the question is, I mean, would you choose immortality?
No.
No. A little bit longer life, yes.
I
Yes,
don't
I'd
need
take longer
longer
life, but
life.
I need an exit. No, I would take a longer life. I'd like to see
I don't want
stuff.
longer
Maybe,
life.
maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. I would. Not for everyone. Not for everyone. Some
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, check me out when I'm.
When my
I don't-
number
as
is
long as I'm-
pulled, I'm cool with it.
Of course, I don't want to be like hanging in there, like where I'm like Grandpa from Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yeah,
you know,
no.
you know, I don't want to be that. I don't want to do
No.
that. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Our guests tonight are Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari from Annie's Ghost Hunters. They have a new show coming out, Haunted Discoveries, and their book is Elements of a Haunting. I really enjoyed this book. I can't wait to talk about it with them. But we got to go to commercial break as soon as I figure out which button to hit. That's it. All right, guys, we'll be back after the short commercial break.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. Mr. called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Certificate A, now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guests are Brandon, Alvis, and Mustafa Gatollari. They are authors of Elements of a Haunting, connecting history with science to uncover the greatest ghost stories ever told. January 8th, 2022, A&E's Ghost Hunter stars Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari published their groundbreaking book, Elements of a Haunting, in their lifelong effort to take paranormal studies out of the realm of the pseudoscience and into academic legitimacy. In the book, they cover their terrifying history of some of America's most haunted locations and reveal never-before-divulged secrets behind these shocking cases. The duo also highlight how some para-celebrities intentionally employ the use of flawed investigative practices to incur false positives. This approach is one that wholly is unnecessary, as Brandon and Mustafa have helped to secure some of the most fascinating paranormal finds ever captured. I just finished the book. Actually, as a paranormal investigator, I really enjoyed it. I really want to talk tonight about the classification system that Brandon and Mustafa have come up with. I think it's incredible. Something we've talked about on the show quite a bit is about classification. The equipment they use, being on A&E's Ghost Hunters, which I will admit now, I never saw. I don't have cable, so I don't see any of the ghost hunting shows anymore, which I've mentioned on the show before. But I'm not having them on here because they've been on a TV show. I'm having them on here because they have this excellent book that I want to talk about, Elements of a Haunting. There's not many books I've liked about paranormal investigating. I can name several, but this is a really good one, especially if you're getting out. You really want to learn about paranormal investigating. These guys definitely have a great approach to it, and I can't wait to get into tonight. Now, we will open up the phone lines later in the show for you to call in and ask your questions of our guests, but we got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. All right, we got the guests in the waiting room. Oh, and Jamie too. We got to get added here. Let's get first up. Let me get that. All right, Brandon. Oh, there's Jamie too. All right, welcome to the show, guys. Let's hopefully we can hear you.
What's up? Hey. Thanks for having us on.
Hey, Brandon. Thank you. And is it? Am I getting? I'm probably totally butchering your name. Mustafa Gatollari.
You're actually pronouncing it like the correct way. I like Mustafa because I'm from Jersey.
Mustafa.
I feel like that represents
Mustafa.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to high school with somebody was Mustafa. Mustafa. That's why I was going.
Yeah.
I said that. I went to somebody Albanian, right?
Yeah.
You're Albanian. Yeah. I went to high school with somebody was. So it was Mustafa. So I saw that name. That's just right where I went to pronounce it.
No,
Brandon.
That's the right way.
Brandon, it's an honor to have you on the show as well.
Thanks,
I've been watching
guys.
you on Facebook since we became Facebook friends. Really interested in what you guys have to talk about tonight. Like I said, I waited to read your book until right before you got here, so it'd be fresh in my mind. I don't want to give it away tonight. You guys, I'm going to let you direct what you want to talk about from the book because you want people to go out and read this, I'm sure.
Of course.
But there's a lot of good stuff in here. A lot of stuff I want to talk to you guys about. I maybe give us a little tidbit of a couple cases out of the book. You have I think 6 cases you guys cover in the book? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think.
Yep, 6 cases. Yeah. 6
Yeah.
are actually our favorite cases, I think, from these ghost hunters, the cases we worked on the show. And yeah.
Now it makes me want to go
fantastic
watch the show after reading the book. Because I honestly, I've been a paranormal investigator since 2008. Lately, not been able to do much ever since COVID hit, really cleared it. The people, this very small group I investigate with are much older than me, and I don't want to expose them or get them ill. I've turned down investigations because we only would do really residential cases. So it's been a long time, so it felt good to read your book. I'm like, God, I miss doing this. I don't have the great equipment you guys have. I would love to have the data logger you guys have. I'm so jealous because that is so
great
key.
piece of equipment.
Oh my God, yes. I've been talking about that for years with the different groups I've been with about how important that would be to be able to have everything time-stamped for every environmental factor. There's a lot we can get into tonight. First off, I don't know who wants to go first. I would like to, you guys to introduce yourself to the audience who may not know you and how this journey started for you. I don't know who wants to volunteer to go first.
Mustafa, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. My name is Mustafa Gatollari. I was featured on A&E's Ghost Hunters, and Brandon and we have our upcoming show, Haunted Discoveries. I can't divulge where it's going yet, but really excited to share that with everybody. And we're the authors of Elements of a Haunting. I started my interest in the paranormal at a really young age. Grew up in a haunted house in New City, New York, and didn't really know what to make of a lot of the phenomenon that occurred there. I talk about it in my book. It had a huge impact on my life. Kind of hated anything paranormal as a result because there was a lot of just
skepticism.
There was a lot of blame that my parents. Yeah, that's just a skepticism. It was mostly.
But it's good skepticism.
It was hatred. That's the. No, it's like we experienced it, and all of us collectively experienced it as a family. But I was just so sick and tired of my parents kind of blaming all their problems on the paranormal, and it really just kind of pissed me off. It just felt like a very weak thing to do, and it just didn't really benefit their lives or our lives in any way. It's like hey, just kind of take control of your own life. So that's kind of where I kind of did it to debunk it, to see if it was some kind of like collective mania, mass, psychosis formation or whatever that is. And then but the more I started researching the paranormal and looking into it and finding other people with like stories, like I ended up with more questions than I had answers. I met a lot of kooks and frauds along the way, but also met some really cool people. Chief among them, my boy Brando here, and we ended up getting on Ghost Hunters together and started really just developing methodologies and bouncing ideas back and forth. And I learned a tremendous amount from him. And yeah, he's my brother, and we have like a lifelong journey together into just getting answers and really trying to. Yeah.
I was gonna say I really enjoyed your part in the book. I really enjoyed your part in the book because I'm always interested in immigrant and other cultures' stories. Anybody I've ever worked with or met personally that have either first generation immigrants or immigrants, I always ask them for their stories, their family stories, or anything unusual, paranormal, because there's so much there. And you went around the Albanian community, right? I mean, and you kind of became known as the guy to talk to for this paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
That could probably be a whole book in itself. Just that. But like you said, most of those people are taking stuff and blaming all their bad luck on jinn or superstitions, and you were looking for the real answers. And I love that part of the book. We'll get to Brandon. Brandon, what got you into all this?
Yeah. With Mustafa and I, we were kind of from two different walks of life, which is funny. I'm from California. He's from Jersey. His involvement in the paranormal started in a different way than mine. Mine started at a young age. At the age of 8 years old, I lost my oldest brother to cancer in '95, and then in '04, I lost another brother to suicide. So that kind of sent me on my journey into the paranormal. Yeah. And for me, it was never really about having a ghostly experience. It was more so about having to cope with and learn about death at a young age, and just thinking about the possibility and the possible existence of a life after death, about the idea of consciousness retaining after death. So that's really what started, my journey into it. So in 2006, I started the American Paranormal Research Association to solely investigate historical locations throughout the country. And before I actually ever stepped foot in the field, I reached out to engineers, medical doctors, scientists, various professionals from other technical industries that could help me remain grounded in not only scientific principle, but just logic, in general. So I started APRA, went out, and now have investigated over 300 locations and continue to do that work to this day with Mustafa.
And you guys met, I mean, through Pilgrim and doing the show on A&E. What really what was it that you guys knew? Okay, this is definitely going to be my bro. You guys got a little bromance going on.
Yeah, for me, it was the fact that Brandon didn't do the annoying thing that everybody who's trying to get on TV do, and that's just like jazz hands. Like he had something to say. And everybody else, everything that they said, what they had to say was put me on TV, put me on TV. They could be saying any dialogue, but the real dialogue was put me on TV, I'm so great. Whereas Brandon's like, no, this is what it's about. This is what we have to do with the show. He had a clear thing that he wanted to say. And because he wasn't saying, look at me, I'm so great, and he was actually working for the situation, he came off as really great and somebody that I wanted to work with. And some other people were intimidated by that, but me, I like being around that. So I was just like, all right, this guy knows what's up.
Because you guys want the truth. You don't want the bedazzle or
Yeah.
That's honestly, I'll tell you guys right now. I remember I got into Ghost Hunters early on. The first few seasons I loved, and I could not take the Hollywoodish of paranormal investigating. Like, I'm not going to name any other shows, that just ruined it for me. I just couldn't watch it on TV anymore, and I just never have. I kind of, like I said, after reading your book, I kind of want to watch it because I want to see the locations. I've some of the locations I'm familiar with, and I've seen on other shows. But reading the book is like, okay, I might have to watch this, at least A&E's Ghost Hunters. And then you guys have the new show, Haunted Discoveries, which, like you said, you can't say where that's airing yet, right? That's still...
Not yet. No.
Not yet.
No public information on that yet, but very exciting. That's one thing that with this show that we wanted to do is really step out of the box with the current slate of paranormal programming that you see, right? So, I mean, in all honesty, and a lot, Mustafa and I get a lot of flack for this a lot of times, but I mean, just being honest, I'm not trying to bash the shows or anything like that, but literally every show that's on air currently is the same show with a different name. It's literally the same thing. There's nothing different going on in a research aspect. There's nothing different going on in a storytelling aspect in any way, shape, or form. It's kind of a rinse and repeat. So what we wanted to do was show, the factual side of paranormal investigation, and show what really goes on out there, not just these quick snippets of, something happening instantly when you walk into a location and fitting a narrative that's constructed by a production company. And that's something that we didn't want to do, and something that we hold, you know, true to, and really wanted to showcase what it's really like, and to, you know, bring a fresh perspective and bring some truth to a genre that in all reality is very stale at the moment.
Yeah, and there's a reason why. Like you said, they keep using the same formula, but it's also the trust factor. I don't want to get into all that. I want to get into paranormal drama, but there's a trust factor that's been crossed or breached in a number of shows. That's been covered. People have shown stuff has been faked on certain shows, and now I have insider details. I know people in the industry. I know producers will push things or do things maybe the investigators don't know that is fake. And you guys, I can tell from your book, you don't want any part of that. You know, you want honesty. You want to know, is it truly a real paranormal phenomenon? Or what we dealing with actually the afterlife? Is it afterlife communication? You know, otherwise we're just wasting our time. You're not in it for the showbiz. And, you know, that's why I really want people to get this book, Elements of a Haunting, because you'll see that from what you guys write, from what you guys have done on investigations. Nobody takes that much time or effort for something that that they're faking.
Appreciate that. No, and seriously, I mean, people seeing the shows again. You're seeing 42 minutes of a show, right? I mean, with Ghost Hunters specifically, we were there for 5 days on location shooting these episodes. You know, and to speak for what I did on the show is, you know, and Mustafa can speak for what he did on the show. There was never anything that happened, or we never partook in anything that was in any way, shape, or form fake or misleading to what we were trying to convey or trying to, you know, look into. The locations are real. The people that we dealt with, the eyewitnesses are real, and we go into it just as any case. I mean, yeah, there's a camera crew there. Yeah, they're documenting it. But for me, it was no different than working any case I've worked since 2006. So, you know, I'm proud of the work I did on 80s Ghost Hunters, and, you know, I definitely stick by, you know, the things that we did on the show. It was a lot of fun. We had some actually groundbreaking moments. It was a lot of fun.
What I always loved about Ghost Hunters was the times they caught people trying to fake them, purposely fake them. And those were some of my favorite episodes. Yeah, but people are probably disappointed it wasn't real or paranormal. These guys could have presented it as such, but they caught it. They showed that they were trying to be faked with. And there is a money industry out there for these locations. And you guys do talk about that in this book. You know, it is a motive for some people to want a certain narrative or a way of an approach or a history of a location to be presented a certain way, even if it isn't the facts. And one of the things you guys talk about is knowing the history of location. I've worked with teams that have basically, you know, back in the day, early on, when I first started out with the first group, I won't say who, would have no information about a place, would do any baseline. It would things would drive you nuts. I mean, I remember I found out this stuff years after the investigation. I'm like, oh, this explains all these EVPs. You know, it was one of my first investigations. They didn't know, but they never interviewed. I was just a new investigator, so I didn't have any part of it. They never even interviewed the lady. It's like history. The location, the person, their family, what they're experiencing. You know, these people just go right on in, and it's like, let's put the recorders and the cameras. I'm like, do you even know what you're talking to or doing? I got great evidence from that, and they never even showed it to the client. This was the first group I ever belonged to. But the history of it, you know, shows so much. Just glance over the history of a location, and then they just go right into the investigation. No, you can take more time on that history. I love hearing the stories. I love hearing and actual facts and data when you do the research and find it too, not just the history that the owners want to present. This new show you guys are going, I know you can't give too much away, is going to have a lot of historical locations and like getting into the kind of the history of it. As I hate it when paranormal shows skip that. They skipped it. They just blanketly give you a stale version of the history, and they go right to investigating.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most exciting things about working on Brandon with this new show, Haunted Discoveries, is that, I mean, he won't say it, but he's an amazing filmmaker and an amazing documentary filmmaker. He had Cemetery Park. He had his series Ephemera. They were widely praised, received a lot of critical acclaim, and they're for good reason, because they're pretty freaking good. And I love that while we were working on the series, that actually came we were talking about that and discussing that before we even discussed what type of investigative protocol or what experiments we were going to do in some of these locations. The history of it and a really deeply rooted familial connection, in addition to really strange environmental anomalies, all kind of coalesced. And what was cool is that everything started with the history. Everything started with the just the lineage of these locations. And then as we started going into that, call it Kismet, call it, I don't know what the hell, but there was a through line that just naturally occurred. We didn't plan it. I couldn't have planned it at all, but there was a through line that occurred throughout all of these different locations that makes for, I mean, it's going to sound so arrogant, but it's the best paranormal TV that's out there. It's the best series of paranormal television anybody will ever see. A lot of people get upset by that. There's other people on other TV shows when I would kind of toot our own horn for some of the work that we did. But I think you guys are really, really, really going to like it because it is a documentary. It is not a reality show. It's a documentary. And then there's a clear difference between the two.
Yes.
And that's what people are going to really, really see once they watch our show.
The paranormal shows that get into all the drama between the ghost hunters and stuff too is always like, I don't care. I don't care if you forgot a piece of equipment. I don't care about any of that. Give me the history. Give me the location. Give me your audio. Like, let me hear, because I'm an audio guy. I want to get into our EVP stuff tonight. I want to talk a little bit because that's my forte is electronic voice phenomena. It's my favorite piece of evidence. A little biased because I have like hundreds and hundreds of them. That's my main piece of evidence I ever got. Brandon, I do like your story in the book of when you first started out because it made me feel like, oh, I'm not alone. Because I started out with a group that was like that. Basically, you tell the story about when you first got invited to investigation and the mediums saying all this stuff about this, and you contradict them. You point out or you tell them that there's a contradiction in their own story. They didn't have any research on the history of it. You go and do it. All that stuff. That's been a struggle for me for years, is to get serious enough people that don't want to just have a fun night. That really want to dig in and really know what's going on in a location and not go with whatever narrative. And I'm not against using mediums. That's the one person I don't want to have any information before they go on and compare it to what I do know. But I've seen it so many times, and I see it in a lot of TV shows. They'll just let the medium say a bunch of stuff, and then they don't even. I mean, some of the stuff they say, there's no way they can even research it. Right. Are you guys going to include any mediums in this show?
We get into some pretty cool stuff. We're open to any type of mindset or, ideas when it comes to the supposed afterlife, when it comes to ghosts, entities, spirits, whatever you want to call them. There's so many different terminology for them, but we're open to anything. But we're going to do our due diligence and our research from our end and allow these people to go in and conduct their research or their psychic connections, whatever you want to say, the way they do it, and we want to work around that. So we do get into some pretty cool stuff when it comes to the metaphysical and occult side of the paranormal, which is pretty cool. And specifically, there's a case that we work with this over 100-year-old legend about a woman who gets into the dark arts and witchcraft, and we bring in someone to replicate what is said to have taken place in one of these buildings. And we, light it up with our methodology and with one of our scientific consultants, Zach Hano. He's an aerospace engineer and a scientist formerly with DuPont, and someone we worked with closely, and brought in someone that is of different spiritual beliefs, allowed them to do their thing, and we monitored all the environmental conditions surrounding that. So we do get into some of that. So it's a lot of fun.
They're doing a ritual, and you're getting to monitor all the environmental factors around them while they're doing the ritual, in a place that's got a long 100 years history of somebody else doing it. That is awesome. I will say that is awesome. I will I would definitely want to watch that. I will definitely want to watch that. See, that's the stuff you guys get to live the dream, man. This is stuff I had the time, money, stuff I'd love to experience. One of the things I've seen on Facebook, Brandon, that you've posted it. I don't know if you're doing this still, or you were looking for a haunted location to make a base camp, to continuously study. And that's something I've dreamed of for years. Somewhere you can totally control the location. studying it on a daily basis with documenting, data logging, all the environmental factors, weather conditions, all that, and different factors of people in house, people out of house. Are you still trying to do that?
Absolutely. That's actually the basis of the show. So,
really? Oh my
that's what
God.
we're doing.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing, is that kind of documenting that process of.
You guys are trying to
going
find the
through-
house.
We're trying to find it. Yeah, we're doing that. Do we find it? I don't know.
Oh,
hopefully,
so
hopefully
that's my
everyone
dream.
watches.
Brandon, that's my. You can ask my wife, who's been investigating with me for years now. That's my dream. Like, she knew if I won, like, I had the lotto and I could just, I would buy a haunted house. I'd go on the hunt for it, and
right.
just so I could set up a bunch of equipment and monitor it 24/7.
I've been trying to get y'all to go in with me on that, haunted ghost town that everybody ran from.
Ghost Town would be cool. Ghost
we
Town
could each have our own place.
That would be awesome.
But Brandon, your mindset in this book is where my mindset's been. I've just not had the funds or the factors to do it. So I'm jealous. And I'm like rooting you on. Like, I'm hoping you do get a location and get to set something up that maybe season 2, right?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, well, but to do that is like the dream to me, to be able to take it. Because one of the things, actually going back to Mustafa, your Albanian experience, living in a household, your parents had bought this house. It was really haunted. I don't want to give away this whole story in the book, but I kind of wanted to talk to you about this. And it's along these lines, is that you lived in this house. You had some weird stuff happen that you witnessed, your family witnessed. They blamed it on Jinn and all their bad luck on that. That's a whole other factor. But you talk about how then you had some other family members move in. Like, it was a house of 15 people, you said, I think, in the book?
Yeah, at one point.
And you watched the activity kind of go away.
Yeah.
This is something I've been fascinated with, being an investigator. I've been called to doing residentials. People will tell me some crazy stuff that happens in their house. And I go into it not as I can't say I go into it as a skeptic, because I'm a believer. First thing I ever saw was 4 or 5 years old. Me and my cousin saw a green floating head. I've seen enough to say I can't be a skeptic. I believe in this phenomenon. I believe it's real. But I go into it with an open mind and listen. But we'll get on a location and the people are like, nothing's happening. I'm like, this is normal, And they're like, it was so negative, and now it's not, and things will be better for these people for a little while. And my theory on this is that we come in as investigators, we're happy people, and we're doing what we love. We're having a good time. And we come into this place that's had this really negative stuff. Like, I'm talking like Bible burning, throwing down the hallway stuff. Okay, negative stuff. And the people that lived there will remark weeks after that the activity died down after you guys came. We didn't do anything. We're not going in. We're not Ghostbusters. We're not blessing the house. I don't do that. We don't do that. We just collect data and see if we can debunk anything that's going on in the house or come up with explanations. But we're not Ghostbusters. But this would be something that would happen. And I've always said our personal energy affects the environment. Your family's case, you move all these people in, that's a lot of new different energies in this house, and the activity quietens. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you believe that as investigators you're affecting the environment by just being there?
Oh yeah, 100%, wholeheartedly. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with how I explain it and perceive it. It's directly in line with what I think. I say it all the time. It really matters who you investigate with, and what are the intentions of everybody going into the investigation? What are you bringing into it? But also on top of that is we, in the show, we actually test that empirically. And we have some really, really wonderful people who've helped us do that. We have an incredible, we're actually getting to edit that case very shortly.
This is all stuff I'm already loving.
Yeah. So
because this is stuff I want to experiment on. You guys have the data logger. You got environmental factors. I would love to see in a haunted location, especially a negative one, what factors change with the different people in there, groups of people in there, no one in there, and how these factors change. A friend I've made over the last few years I've had as a guest on the show is Barry Taff. He did the Entity case. And I read his book, As Above, So Below, Ghosts and UFOs. I think I got the title wrong. Sorry, Barry. But he covers his time investigating with UCLA, early days, the entity case, a number of other cases that he was on, and his experiences between the paranormal UFO. But one of the things he always, his biggest theory is it's environment and person to combine. Like they are the needle, the environment's the record. A certain person is the needle, the right energy for the environment to cause activity. It's a psychokinetic thing. You have your classification system, and you go over, and I want to go over that tonight, but where in that do you see that kind of activity, like the entity case, or something that's more psychokinetic, derived from a person, or the person and environment?
Right. Well, I would classify that from, the system that we put together. Again, the classification system is a collection of terminology that's been used going back over 100 years. A lot of that terminology of which was used by the Ghost Club of London in the 1800s and kind of expanded upon to the 1960s and 70s when a lot of the psychic research started. But I would classify that as what we would say a pseudo-haunting, right?
That's right.
So,
you put that under elemental is like pretty much your only description there. Yeah, and I found that interesting.
There's more to it that we hope to one day write more about it because, obviously the classification systems are going to be ever expanding and evolving throughout research. And we hope one day that it can become like an open database for all investigators to really start to put their own data and their own ideas into it. So that's kind of the idea behind it. But we definitely would call that a pseudo-haunting. And there's many different ways that can manifest, right? Through thought form manifestation, things like that.
Like
but
a
I do think, exactly. I do think that the agent, if you will, a person within the environment can affect it far more than people realize. The human brain is a very powerful thing. And we don't really understand how much the human brain can affect our own space around us and the environment around it. And we do get into some of that within Haunted Discoveries, which is very fascinating because, with Elements of a Haunting, the book, and the new series that we're doing, this docu-series, they kind of go hand in hand. And a lot of that research that's laid out in the book is put into practice on the show. And it's really fascinating. So definitely would say, again, a pseudo-haunting. And, again, that's always expanding and the terminology is always growing.
One of the classifications you had, I actually want to make sure I ask you about, because I was talking about this with Jamie before the show. I got to look. I put it on my notes. Where was it? I think this was under number 4, Malevolent Entities. Is this one you titled Green Ladies, Phantom Apparitions of Ladies Dressed in Green Gowns that Often Act as Heralds of Misfortune or Death. The reason I asked this question is, like, I don't know if you heard me mention earlier, one of my earliest memories of a paranormal experience was with my cousin. We were 4 or 5 years old, and I remember hearing this kind of whimpering sound, and I thought it was his mom crying. And the next thing you know, there's this poof, and this green floating head comes flying through the room, circling around us, and I could hear it wailing, like screeching. It was like a wailing screech. The what was it? The Mayan death whistle they had in what was it? Ghostbusters Afterlife. Like that's kind of what it sounded like. Flew through the room. Now my cousin never heard it make a noise. He just saw the green floating head. It terrified us. Make a short story. We ran out of the room. Of course, parents went in. Nothing was there. My cousin thought it was a dream for many years until I reminded him of it. I've been fascinated by this green floating head. I've tried to research as much as I can about it, and I've run into just a few people who've had a green floating head experience. One, when I was first investigating, I met a lady with Irish background, was one of the things I've looked into. And then just recently, somebody called into the show and told me about her green floating head story. I saw the green lady phantom fade. I just wanted to know a little more about what that category is, if it has any relation to that.
Well, the funny thing about that is that specific type of apparition or entity, whatever you would like to call it.
Yeah.
It originates in the UK. That's a kind of phenomenon that's been observed there for many years, hundreds of years. And the Ghost Club of London specifically was able to get it down to the fact that each of these locations that had these sightings had a very specific history associated with it, which goes in with the classification process. But something to do with the color green and being malevolent is there for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why that is. I haven't personally been able to get enough data to support that, but it's something that's been talked about so long. It's something we have to look into. But it does seem that there's a cultural aspect to it as well. In certain parts of the world and cultural beliefs and the different belief systems that exist out there, the phenomena seems to take on its own life or its own form. But in a lot of places throughout Europe, you do see green ladies, things like that, that are, kind of associated with malevolent entities. And why exactly that is, I'm not sure. I hope one day we can get out to those areas and look into it ourselves. But as of right now, I have seen and have heard of cases where people have talked about seeing women in green dresses that have been, very similar to what's been reported, throughout the UK and certain parts of Europe. So it's definitely fascinating.
You let me know if you ever run across a green floating head.
Yeah, definitely.
I was always terrified of the Wicked Witch of the West after that from the Wizard of Oz, because that's what the face reminded me of. But it was this green glow. That's why I have that's why I have this green glow behind me. Reminds me of the green floating head. So I'm always interested, like, Mustafa, your Albanian heritage and all that, the different cultural entities and the relationship to other cultures and how the stories change. And that's kind of what I like about your book when you get into the classification. Because these are kind of archetypes of hauntings. Like, let's see, like, you have the green ladies, the hag, that's the malevolent ones, the radiant boys, all bad omens. These are like archetypes. And we've talked about it on this show that a lot of these hauntings revolve around archetypes. Lady in White, you got that all over, from Mexico to Illinois to, there's so many Lady in Whites with similar stories. There seems to always be like way tragedies fall in a certain house, the hauntings end up being similar. That's what it seems like you guys are trying to get to with these classifications. Where did you start with? Like how, because I've always thought about trying to make a classification system. Where was the basic premise of how you started to build this?
Well, it comes down to the fact that there's so much specific terminology used throughout the years. And it was just through years and years and years of Mustafa and I doing book research and reading different ideas and different approaches to the paranormal and people talking about specific cases over the years. A great bit of source material that we used on the book was a book written by a woman named Emily Peach. It was called Things That Go Bump in the Night. Very detailed book about investigating cases and investigating hauntings. And she was extremely detailed with that book, talked about some of that terminology and talked about how she was able to document it, not only through the historical research side of it, but actually going out and collecting data. So it really came to the fact that when I started investigating the paranormal and actually working with Mustafa as well, I reached out to one of my scientific consultants, Dr. Harry Clore. He's the first person in history to receive 2 PhDs simultaneously in any discipline. And I asked him, I said, if the paranormal is going to be taken seriously from a scientific perspective, what's something we should be doing? And beyond, logical approach and scientific principle and data collection, he said that there needs to be some form of classification system. And that's something that he recommended. And so after that, just kind of hit the ground running and going through and reading as much material as I possibly could from different, research aspects, and from psychic phenomena to scientific to metaphysical, anything. And kind of looking through all that, looking at the terminology and starting to combine a lot of that terminology and put it to our own research.
Under the elemental scene that you said you're going to more research to come on that, more of a classification for that in itself. One of the things I've noticed that I've talked about on the show and as like an archetype theme between what you would call, I call the paranormal Disneyland kind of phenomenon, whereas this kind of could be psychokinetic coming from a person. There's a couple cases like the Bell Witch and Skinwalker Ranch, and there's a third one that all start with the same phenomenon. I noticed this, is if you look at the Bell Witch case and you look at least Skinwalker Ranch, and there's one more and I'm forgetting which one it is, started what I call with a beast in the field. If you look at the Bell Witch, it started with the farmer and his son out in a field, and a beast appeared. This is right before all the activity started going crazy. And they shot at it or ran away. This is the Bell family. Or not the Bell family. And then Skinwalker Ranch, they started with a beast that came out of the field, and they shot at it, and it ran away. And then they started having all this crazy activity. and stuff. There's like these archetypes you see in different kinds of hauntings. That one's a maybe psychokinetic, paranormal Disneyland, portal to another universe. I don't know, but there does seem to be correlations you can make between different hauntings and the activity that is very similar depending on the factors of the haunting. For one instance, you guys, there's one of them where you had the restless spirits, like the suicide apparitions. I've had some cases, residential cases. A lot of those, I've had some that are like the suicide spirit kind of thing, where it's actually more than one person committed suicide. Like a location has a bad history of people committing suicide, like one spirit's affecting another, or it's energy in a place. And you wonder, is it a spirit doing this, or is it the energy of a place doing this? You know, there's a suicide restless spirit, but there's places that are like actual locations for suicide, like the suicide forest, for example. You know, that's one of the most famous known. Do you think locations like that not only have like a haunting or a person, but actually can affect people to do the same thing, like a suicide over and over again?
I mean, that's tough to say. I think it's on a case-by-case basis. What I can say is that people being influenced by the repetitive reinforcement of a specific idea in a location or energy, yes.
Yeah.
Or that belief can then create that energy after constantly repeating it and reinforcing that over and over again, you know, kind of like begets the other. That is a very real phenomenon in my experience. I've seen that. And I think that, you know, you get what you put into an investigation or just to stay somewhere. And if you're constantly saying that, and that even works with like people in terms of perception.
Yeah.
You know, if like Brandon said to you, like messaged you before I came on this program and said like, hey, you know, just letting you know, like Mustafa, like he kind of had like a mental breakdown earlier today. So just like, you know, just watch out, like he's kind of on edge and everything. And then every action that I did, I'd come off as like crazy
by my perception.
Verge on mental
totally.
breakdown. Yeah. I mean, I am, but like that's another story entirely.
I'll keep an eye on you tonight. I'll be easy.
Yeah. No, but like I think when that happens now, could that energy be influencing people, and is that a legitimate thing? Yes, but are pseudo hauntings, like Brandon referenced just a little bit ago, as powerful or valid as other hauntings? I don't know if that's the correct way to look at it. I just think that it's a different breed entirely.
Well, the reason I ask is, you know, I've told people, most people I tell, you know, 99% of this stuff can't hurt you or do anything to you. But I had something happen to me at a very, you know, I was age 17 to 18, where I was basically followed home from something that was connected to a bunch of deaths that terrorized me for months, drove me to the edge of about losing my mind. And that's the main reason I'm here today doing this show, is so I have an outlet for people. Because back then I had no one to talk to. I almost lost my mind. This scene at the point ended with me being levitated up off my bed and thrown down 3 times. Until I basically called out to God and was saved, literally saved. And it changed my whole perspective of things. I believe that when people tell me they're attacked by something negative, I will listen, because I've had it happen to me. There is a negative side. Now, doing the investigation since 2008, I've never done an investigation where I felt I was in harm or danger, except for one time when I had an investigator have what I call a walk-in experience, where literally she froze for a good minute, no unresponsive, literally frozen in place, and then was totally, her personality shifted, and she had no memory of the night. We've never gone back there again. You know, I always try to protect people that I investigate with. I'm not going to mess around with something that's going to affect somebody like that, because of my own experience. You guys doing this, like I said, I did it for years. Nowhere near as many places as you have. I never ran across anything like I encountered when I was 17 or 18. Do you guys believe that people can be influenced by something else beyond a spirit, but actually something we don't understand, a negative entity of some kind?
Yeah, I do. I think that it's possible. I think that there's a lot of forces within the universe and within our space and time that can influence people. I do think that's a possibility. I think it's very rare. I don't think it happens as often as some would say, especially the TV shows. But
demon, like the
yeah,
Oculus would always say on a certain TV show, it'd just be demon every
right.
investigation. I'm like,
Yeah,
just shut that damn thing off.
Basically all demons now. It's like kind of the whole thing going on with the genre at the moment. But yeah, I think it is possible. I've read some amazing books from Malachi Martin and people like that that have had exorcists of the Vatican for a number of years, and you know I've looked at it from all different cultural points. So I do think there's something to it, and I think that there is an influence out there. I think it's very rare, and I think it's something that we don't come across often. But I definitely think people can be influenced in some way.
And see, I don't even call what happened to me demonic. Even I don't know what to qualify it as. I've blatantly, just kind of called it a shadow person experience over the years, but because that's all it was to me, was a shadow that I would see physically with my own eyes, not in a dream or out of the corner of my eye. I'd actually see this thing in front of me, and two other people had the same problem at that time. So to me, to me, it's been proved myself personally, that something exists out there. I don't know if it's demonic or not, but there is something that can influence people to do harmful. This is what its purpose was with me, was to harm myself or others. So there is that slight, really rare chance that there is something negative out there that can affect people sometimes. So you were going to say something.
I will say the closest thing I ever came to that was actually at a hospital on College Hill in West Virginia. And it was this weird portion, and I think it was the third floor of the building. It was one of these rooms where I don't know, I kind of saw myself doing things and acting in a certain way when I was by myself in this room, and I kind of I'm like, all right, let me kind of give myself up to this. And
not a good idea.
Daryl, who came into the room, and he kind of was looking at me, and he's like, "Hey, bro, you all right?" And then I'm like, I kind of snapped out of it. And I was like, yeah, and I was telling him what happened and what I was experiencing, and it kind of felt like something was puppeteering me in a way. And then Daryl's like, yeah, that's. He goes, I've had that happen before, and he referred to it as puppeteering. I think that's the closest thing I ever came to anything like that. So yeah, for what it's worth, that was my experience. It didn't feel very. It was like didn't feel very good, but you're kind of. I was kind of turned on by like some kind of morbid, twisted curiosity, like watching a Dewey Bowl movie. Like I'm just like, let's see how bad this is gonna get. Like, you know what I mean? So
don't go down that rabbit hole too much, from my experience. But I mean, I even warn investigators. I've been on with people, and they'll go like, "You can use my energy." I'm like, no, do not say that. I'm just cautious. I don't want people to give permission. I think your intent, like you talk about intent going into places, means a lot. But if you give the intent of like, here, use my energy, come inside me, you don't know what you're giving permission to. And that's the thing. Whenever you guys are going on an investigation, this, no matter what the history is, you don't know what you're talking to. No matter what comes across on the EVP or what you see, no matter what the history is, you don't know for sure what that is you're talking to. You're poking a stick in the dark. You don't know what you're going to poke. So you guys say be respectful. That's one of the things I've always had in our group is be respectful. Don't yell. Don't get negative. Don't antagonize. You don't know what you're antagonizing. Why be a jerk to somebody you don't even know who they are?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, respect is key in any situation. I mean, in life, but especially when it comes to paranormal research, especially when, we were talking about history earlier and really talking about what a big role historical research and history plays into, the research side of the paranormal. So, yeah, I mean, you need to learn about who these people were, what their day-to-day lives were like, what they went through, how they died, and, how these buildings operated. And in order to really get in there and get results of some kind, you need to have an understanding of that. And I think that respect is always key in that situation.
And use that information wisely that you get for the history to one show, was it? Oh, I can't remember the name of the show. There was one paranormal show, they called it Era Cues. Basically, things to entice the spirits to, to their era. Like they'd play music from that era. Ghost Lab, thank you. Yeah. I always like that idea, I mean, find a respectful way. Instead of yelling at the dang thing, what you don't even know. Find a respectful way. Do something to kind of bring out the ghosts, if that's what you're trying to do, but be respectful, there's certain things shows have done I think were pretty good, but at the time there's a lot of other garbage out there. They're like the Oculus demon that I've seen on certain show all the time. Doing this, one of the things we experiment live on this show with is we have people call into this show and we run spirit boxes and we see if it responds to them and we go back and review it. And I like to do it live. I don't do pre-recorded ITC sessions. One, my wife would kill me if I did it in my house all the time. So I get one day a month or maybe one day out of every 2 or 3 months to do an ITC show. People call in, they try to communicate with their loved ones. We've had some incredible stuff. We've had audio come not from the spirit box, direct into the show, vocal audio. We know it wasn't from the box because the box had an echo, reverb on it. So you can tell the two different audios. Incredible stuff. Do you guys experiment at all with ITC beyond EVP recording, but like with Spirit Box or any kind of other devices?
I mean, no. Like I don't really use a lot of those. I mean, I will say we have come across some pretty cool things, even talking with other investigators on the show. They were using a necrophonics app, which you hear phone app and you're like, okay.
Our friend made that.
Oh, really?
We know that one. That's one of my favorite ones.
I will say there was something really interesting. Some investigators that we worked with found with it, and that was pretty cool. But I think a lot of times we really need to kind of look at what's going into this technology that's being created. What is it exactly documenting, and how was it made? A lot of these devices, like an Oculus, right? They have a word bank, and it learns after a while. A lot of these phone apps use location services that'll scan. We don't know what data it's scanning. I mean, I'd imagine it's the same kind of technology that, like, I was talking about Uncle Fester on the road, Ghost Hunters with Brandon, talking about.
Oh, you're clipping out.
Sorry. Can you hear me
it's
now?
All right. Now I can hear you now. Yeah, you were clipping out there.
You're good? All right, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we were talking about, and then 6 hours later after talking about Uncle Fester, I start getting ads for Fester's Quest T-shirts, which is a Nintendo game.
You're right.
Starring
your phone is listening to
Addams
you.
Family member. Yeah, so I think that using, I don't know what's going on with a lot of these apps, but I mean, you could say that it's scanning maybe Google reviews or stuff that's nearby, and then that's going to seem like, oh my God, the ghost is telling us about his favorite restaurant that's like right around the corner. It's like, no, it's using location services. Like that's all that's going on.
For us, one of the reasons I do it live on the show is, one, people know I don't manipulate any audio when they call in, but two, I don't use it on residential cases. Like if been experimenting with for years, but on the show, I've gone to abandoned haunted places and tried it out, but I won't use it on a residential case. I have no interest in it. The Frank Sumpton, the original person of the ghost box, you could say, never even intended it for paranormal investigation. He actually intended it aliens. You got it. Mm-hmm. But I was a big skeptic at first. I'd go on these investigations and people bring an SB7. I'm like, oh, shut that thing off. Shut it off. The noise. So exactly. It's annoying. But I got interested in it because then I had this one investigation where one of my investigators always said, "Can I use it, please?" And I had eventually stop her on residential cases. Like, I just don't like it. I know we got some cool stuff, but I don't like it on residential. But we did get it telling us his name was Ivan and was telling us this stuff. And then the client comes back and we just, I didn't even want to present it to her. And she's like, "Just poke me, go ahead." And she goes, "Yeah, actually, Ivan's my uncle who just died like a couple weeks ago." And she listened and she goes, "That sounds like him." I'm like, okay. So I started looking into it more, and I've had personal experiences doing the show where people, my cousin called in, and we heard my grandmother's voice and his grandmother's voice on this show. So there's something to it, and I've always been fascinated by EVPs and electronic voice phenomenon, just purely getting audio out of thin air on a device, and I feel like the two could be connected. Manipulation of audio in the background somehow, stochastic resonance. There's a lot of theories. There's stuff I'd like to talk to you guys about tonight, what your theories are on how EVPs are recorded, and get into that. But I do want to we're going to be going to commercial break, into your guys' a little bit. I don't want you to give the whole book away, but kind of your basis of paranormal investigating. The principles you guys want to kind of put forth tonight to people, how you investigate, where you start and end with investigation. I know you don't want to give the whole book away, but so people can get an idea what you guys are trying to accomplish here tonight. And we are going to open up the phone lines when we come back from commercial break too, if you guys are good with taking questions from the audience.
Sounds good. Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I want to play for you, one question, we're going to get an EVPs before we go. Have you guys ever gotten a reverse EVP?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, many times.
Yeah, now that's something I'm fascinated by. Because one of the first investigators, remember I told you I went on the investigation where they didn't tell me anything, they didn't do any background research, and then they didn't give the client any of my evidence that I got. I had gotten this reverse EVP. I'm going to play it for you guys. And I've been fascinated. I don't think I've ever gotten another EVP that I've got a couple I think could be reversed. This was definitely reversed. So I'm going to play you the original. I'm going to tell me what you guys think. This is from 7 years ago or more. Oh, it's 8, 9 years. No, actually, it's 11 years ago. All right, here we go. I played the wrong one. Hold on. This is it, not in reverse.
It was right behind you. Yeah.
You hear that? The last part? All right, hold on. I remember listening to that as an investigator like 100 times. Like, it's a clear voice. It's not either. I was sitting right in the room. I have it on video. Then it didn't show up on the video. It showed up on the audio recorder, the digital audio recorder I was using. So I remember Mike McDowell was my instructor in the paranormal investigating. He said, if you get something like that, it's totally clear but makes no sense, play in reverse and see what happens. So I played in reverse. This should be it in reverse. It said, what we heard was, I can hear you, mommy. Found out after I ran in just out of the blue, ran into the client, and she worked with hospice children who were dying.
Oh, man.
And she had all this activity around her autistic son. We also got a puking noise in that investigation, found out the guy that lived there before had fallen down the stairs and choked on his own vomit. This is the puking noise.
Jimi Hendrix style, huh?
Yes, it was. Hold on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Imagine if I'd known all that when I was doing that investigation.
Yeah.
So I felt your pain when you're talking about going in and not knowing everything. Like, I got some of my first investigations, I got some of my favorite EVPs, and I didn't know any of the background history till years later when I ran into the woman. And then I got to investigate her place again. But never got that kind of quality like I did that first night. So I can't wait to talk about your guys' investigation procedures and advice to people who want to start doing paranormal investigating. I think they should really pick up your book, Elements of a Haunting. Definitely want to check it out. We'll go to commercial break, and we'll be back and open up the phone line, guys. And you can call in and ask your questions yourself. If I can find the button. There we go. We'll be right back.
Conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello, I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Edgar Allan Poe wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
Please, Spock, do me a favor. And don't say it's fascinating. No. But it is interesting.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guests are Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari. Mustafa. Gotta get that right, Mustafa. They are formerly of A&E's Ghost Hunters, and they have a new show coming out haunted discoveries, and they have a book I highly recommend, Elements of a Haunting, connecting history with the science to uncover the greatest ghost stories ever told. And that's what I love about doing this show. I just recently, by the way, email me at paranormalsoupjbland@gmail.com. That's paranormal soup, the letter J, last name bland @gmail.com, and tell me your paranormal stories. I've gotten some recently, and I'm really enjoying it. You had an experience, you don't feel like calling and sharing it, you want to tell it, I will listen. Email me again, paranormalsoupjbland@gmail.com. Tell me your paranormal experience you want to share. If you're too afraid to call into the show. If you're not afraid, please call in the show. Join the discussion. Ask your questions of the guests, of course, tonight. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get back on into it. Now, we lost Jamie and Rob. Jamie knocked over her setup, plus she's not been feeling so well, and Rob's trying to get over being sick, so I told him to cut out early. So it's just us three tonight from this point on, so I'll try to manage the chat room because I don't have Jamie and Rob for that tonight, but they might be in the chat room to help me out a little bit there. Welcome back, Brandon, Mustafa. All right, so we were talking about, I want to get into your guys' kind of procedure or thought process for investigating. One of the things I've always compared investigating to, and we were talking about perspective, is I'm a Star Wars fan. May the Force be with you here. I always compared haunted locations to the cave in Dagobah. If you're ever a Star Wars fan, Empire Strikes Back, Luke goes in, and Yoda, he's going to go into the spooky dark cave where the dark side's manifesting, and Yoda tells him to leave his weapons behind. Of course, Luke doesn't. And he ends up getting a lightsaber fight with, of course, Vader, his worst archenemy. It was all about, like, what your perspective is. He goes in looking for a fight because he's taking his weapons. He gets a fight. When you go into a location, knowing like you have your archetypes and all this stuff, knowing the history, how do you go into an investigation with not having that any kind of like perception of what to expect?
I don't know. I mean, there's times where I do like to go inside into an investigation without really knowing much about the history, but it's kind of hard not to.
Right.
One, I'm too curious. Two, it's almost impossible to not hear a bunch of stories. I think the real question is like, okay, so you have this thought in your mind, or you have this bit of knowledge that you've come across. You can't just tune it out because that's impossible. So how do you tune it out? The only way to tune it out is to really, really have something that you want to explore that's more compelling to you personally than that thought. And that's why Brandon and I are constantly challenging ourselves in terms of getting a better methodology down. How can we get a better methodology down? How can we? It's very, very, very difficult to try and gather empirical evidence of a ghost or a paranormal occurrence. So if you honestly work to try to do something that's in theory very simple, you're going to be hit with a lot of obstacles in trying to do that honestly and empirically in an investigation. So that automatically kind of tunes out any of that other stuff with the stories or things that you've heard.
Yeah.
Because otherwise what's going to happen is somebody a few cases ago heard a noise, and then on their spirit box or when they're doing an SD's method session, whatever, on an SB7, heard the name.
It doesn't want you to say the name because you cut out.
Where
Bob.
a guy named, jumped off of a bunch of
Yeah.
Bob, yeah. So then you have investigators who walk in. Literally, the first thing they'll do is be like, "Is Bob here? Why'd you die?
Right.
Why'd you
It
kill
always
yourself,
drove
Bob?"
me
And
nuts.
it's like the first thing that they do. It's like, start with the methodology. Cast a wide net, be respectful, state your intentions, why you're there. And again, a lot of times activity isn't that question and answer back and forth. We would love to have that. That's what's like the dream is. But if that doesn't work, then what are you going to do? You're going to keep doing the same thing over and over? No, you approach it differently. Move around the room. Get people to go to different parts of the room. Maybe just sit and observe. Maybe talk amongst yourselves a little bit and try to work out some other experiments. But have a list of things that you want to, knock off. I mean, we did that a bunch of times on the show or any of our cases, and we didn't even get to some of the stuff that we had planned because, oh my God, it turns out this is where the investigation's going. Does that mean that we wasted our time? leading up to that? Absolutely not. It just shows that, you know, we prepared for it so much. There was so much rehearsal, preparation to go in there to get it done, that I think by that virtue of us working so hard, we had a different energy about us, as opposed to being like, well, there's been so many instances where we walked into a place and activity just started happening, so let's rely on that. No, I think that the only reason why we were so lucky on, you know, Ghost Hunters to capture what we captured, and especially in Haunted Discoveries, which I'm still kind of like blown away by, you know, even just in the edit, we're picking up things that were like, oh my God, we didn't even realize that this happened. It's all because we really, really, really busted our asses. And I have a belief that just like people really respect others, even if they don't like them, you respect somebody who's really killing themselves to try to do something to move that weight. And I think that if there's entities that are intelligent or human or were once human, they identify with that as well. And I think it's like a magnetic attraction. I think that kind of just attracts. So if you want to be a good paranormal investigator, work your ass off. And I think you're going to get more activity as a result.
They got to know you're going to review it. I mean, I would have investigators. I'm like, have you gotten done with your review? No, I haven't reviewed it yet. I'm like, well, what's the point? Well, you recorded all that stuff. You're not going to review it. You know, I've seen people do that. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm done. I'm done with you. You know, because that's you know, it takes hours and hours and hours and hours to review this stuff. But that's the reason you do it, is you're trying to find something. And I you know, I watch people come and go doing this for the years. I'm down to, like, for my last of my investigation group, like 2 other people and my wife. You know, because so many people came and went. It's hard to find people that are going to be serious enough to really want to go over it, data log, you know, for one, just let alone looking at all the timestamps of what everything that happened and trying to find out if what you're really dealing with is something paranormal or not. Most people just want the fun night, and that it's hard to find the people that are serious enough to take it on and actually review all this stuff. That's why I honestly haven't done any investigations a couple of years, because I know how serious it is. I got 2 kids. I don't have the time at the moment to devote to it. You know, you have to really put a lot of time into these things. You know, not for TV. I mean, that's not even counting what you guys are doing, trying to make an actual TV production. An actual investigation alone takes a lot of work.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's a whole process within itself. You know, but the beautiful thing about doing a documentary docuseries like we're doing with this show is it's those 2 processes come together, right? So not only do you have a crew of people that are there to document the process, but the way the television production side of it goes is a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of very, a lot of methodology behind it, methodical way of doing it. And when the paranormal research side and the filmmaking side come together, it's like a perfect scenario, because we have people that are there running time code, not only with audio, but with the cameras. We're running time code with our devices, and everything's kind of in sync together. So it really helps the process a lot. And we have people there that are very passionate about what they're doing and willing to do what it takes to, make it happen. So that's it's a really good moment when you have the right team of people, not only from a filmmaking side, but also from the paranormal research side, because you have more resources available, you have more technology available, and you have more passion available. That goes a long way.
I would like you, I mean, like I said, we don't give the whole book away, and I don't know which one I should pick here, but I'd like you to run us through one of these investigations you got here. You got some good ones. You have that theater in Indiana. I always mispronounce it. Athenaeum or Thenum? How do you say it?
The Athenaeum, yeah.
Athenaeum. The Original Springs Hotel in Oakville, Illinois. Madison Seminary. Glen House in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which I find that interesting because Cape Girardeau had Paul Blake Smith on, is one of the first UFO crashes in America, what we know of in American history, 1941, Cape Girardeau.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm actually in Missouri right now. I'm in Kansas City.
Really? Yeah, Cape Girardeau, we've talked a lot about that town in the 1941 case. And then you had the Galena Marine Hospital and Papa, Texas Hospital, where you mentioned, actually, in the book about your interest in hospitals and hauntings. I actually have the same interest because I grew up in a hospital. My mom worked in one for 17 years. They just recently tore down this hospital, but I knew it to be haunted because I lived across the street from it. And one night, me and my wife watched, and I know it's just the gut feeling that it came from the hospital. The corner of the house that was pointing at the hospital, these translucent faces came through the wall one night. Me and my wife were laying in bed. And I'm like, you see what I'm seeing? She's like, yeah. I'm like, I feel like that's all from the hospital, coming from the hospital. Like, it was the weirdest thing. It was a haunted house for sure that we lived in, our first apartment. But I've always felt it came from that hospital. Now that hospital's torn down. But I'm always fascinated because hospitals are a place where people are born and die. You know, the doorway's open to the afterlife. If anywhere, it'd be a hospital. So I don't know if you want to cover one of the hospitals you did, or I don't know what I would. There's so much good stuff. I don't know which one I would pick. So I'll let you guys pick which case you'd like to kind of preview for people.
Nah, man, it's your show. You pick. I'm sorry. I have to throw that back on you. You got to pick, dude.
That's a hard one. Man, dang it. Oh.
Which one did you think about the most? Which one is like when you were like, okay, which one do it?
I do like the hospital stuff.
Okay.
I do like hotels too. So, which hospital though? I don't know, Galena or Pampa, Texas.
We could do the old Pampa, Texas one. That's a great case. I think that's probably, in my opinion, one of the best cases we worked on.
All right, let's do that one. Let's do that one.
Yeah.
So tell people a little bit about this one.
That's a tragic story there. I mean, that's one that Mustafa and I, before we ever actually got into Texas, we were doing a lot of research on the location. Mustafa was doing a hell of a lot of historical research on it, and there was always one specific person that kept popping out that if there was anyone haunting excuse me, now Galena's on my mind, but
yeah,
if anyone was haunting the Worley Hospital, it would be this woman by the name of Mary Lucille Myers. And this is a woman that was a nurse at the hospital for many years and had a very tragic story. I know Mustafa did a lot of research on it and found some really fascinating stuff with it.
Yeah. So I remember all of the work we did on that show, and Brandon and I were constantly, even to this day, I text him and message him and contact him more than anybody. And on the road for that, I had the same feeling when I was doing my research and I read about the story of Mary. I was like, this is going to be, if there's anybody here, it's her. And then even Brandon, he comes up to me, he's like, dude, I really think. But then we're like, okay, we're going to stick to the methodology. We're going to stick to our approach, and let's just do that. Like, that's what we're going to invest all of our time into. So, but before I get into that, the investigation bit, just a little bit of history about it. Mary Lucille Myers, she was originally, from Texas. She worked as a nurse. She was a naval nurse during World War II, and that's where she met a soldier who was actually a prisoner of war in California when she was stationed out there. And they fell in love with one another, and they ended up moving to back to Texas. And what had happened was she moved in with him, and shortly after they were together. Now, I don't know if people know what the treatment of POWs were in Japanese, camps.
Not good.
Where it was brutal, absolutely brutal. They did not treat their prisoners well, and it's not like Vietnam. The POWs in Vietnam, for the most part, GIs were treated pretty well by all accounts. Japan, it was not like that. And so, understandably, the individual that she married had some difficulties or
PTSD.
Issues. I guess he was taking them out on Mary. So for Mary, it seems like that her solace was at this hospital. Now we're talking, at this time period, she was very young, in her early 20s. At this time period, you're in the Bible Belt, you're in Texas, you're newly married. If you're having marital issues at home, you're probably not going to be, told like, "Oh, just leave him, girl." Like today, there's like a lot of, empowerment and stuff. Like back then, it wasn't really like that. So she, unfortunately, 2 attempts in the same day, tried poisoning herself with cyanide while at the hospital at a place that is her solace, probably from this really bad home situation.
A cry for help.
Yeah, and the second attempt, unfortunately, she passed. So we go into the investigation, and then first night of the investigation, we're there, very open, very broad. We don't mention her name at all. We don't mention she was a surgical nurse. We don't mention surgical nurses at all. We're just canvassing the first floor, and we hear things. But then Brandon sees something moving in the hallway. He captures it actually on his body camera, shadow figure, and okay, so then we use that. Well, who could it have been? What could it have been? So then the second night, there was this idea that, like, if we're ramping up construction of the place or doing demolitions, that's going to help to spark paranormal activity. And while Brian and Daryl from the show were downstairs hitting walls with sledgehammers, Brandon and I were on I think the third floor of the building, and we are walking through the hallways, and out of the corner of my left eye, I could have swore I saw something.
Yeah.
And usually a lot of times, especially on the show, it's like, well, I don't want to really go, and because it's valuable resources. There's that very kind of like shallow thing where it's just like, okay, like they're spending, what is it, like $800 like a minute or something like that. So I'm just like, I got to be sure that I'm going down this. We only have so much time to investigate here, that we're really, really choosing our battles. But at that point, I was like, well, he saw something yesterday, so let me just go down this. Now, this is a place that hasn't had electricity or any active wiring for
It's been abandoned.
decades.
Yeah.
Completely. It was covered in bird carcasses and avian poop, and it sounds like some cats got in there and just massacred a bunch of birds. Which I'm okay with because I hate birds.
Dead things.
And then and all this
Dead things, Mikey. Dead things.
And we walk in, and we hadn't been getting any really logging of environmental changes, but on our EDI plus, we start getting EMF. Okay, so we're there, and we're in the room. We get an EMF spike again, and then we're like, hey, is there anybody here with us? If so, we have this device that you can communicate with. It seems that you're communicating with us. Can you, if you want to respond yes, can you please set this device off? Sets it off. So then we start working our way down the line of questioning. And okay, are we speaking to a man? Nothing. Are we speaking to a woman? Boop, goes off. And then we ask control questions, go back. Hey, are we speaking to a woman? Boop, goes up. And then we start working it down, ruling out the possibility that this person who we're presumably interacting with is a doctor or a patient or an employee. Yes, we got an employee. Okay, well, what did you do here? Were you a custodian? Were you a janitor? Did you work the front desk? Were you an ambulance driver?
Right.
Were you a surgical nurse? Boop, goes back up. And then finally, we just, ask flat out, is your name Mary? Are you Mary Lucille Myers? Yeah. So what's really interesting then is that we radio was Grant, Rochelle, and Kristen above us, and we asked like, hey, this is what we're getting. And Grant asked, hey, can you ask them to come up and set up our device, because we haven't been getting anything. Now, the EDI Plus is a very, very, very difficult device to manipulate. REM pods and tri-fields, the old school ones, you can set them off with walkie-talkies.
Oh,
there are people who do that. So we sent that up there. Or the EDI Plus, the only way to really manipulate it is if you breathe on it, or if if
up
you're
close,
vapor,
touching it.
Yeah, you have to get on the sensor and actually manipulate it. So we sent Mary to go up there, and then their device started getting triggered, and then they asked Mary to come back down to us. But we weren't registering interactions on our EDI Plus. We started registering it on our motion detector. And then what happened then, Brandon, if you want to take the second part of this story and talk about that, I think that would be really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, once we started registering the EMF on the data logger, we started to get, questions answered, with a yes and no kind of, answer session. And we kind of move out into the hallway, and we have not only a motion detector, but we have an ambisonic microphone, all kinds of stuff set up. But we started noticing that our interaction started to take place on the motion detector. And so the motion detector starts going off in response to our questions, which is really interesting, shooting down a very open hallway, no one down there, nothing really going on much beyond the motion detector being tripped. And we start this line of questioning and start getting yes or no answers through not only the EMF initially, but then the motion detector. But little did we know, but upon review, we actually were getting voices, a voice of a woman responding directly to us in correlation with the device being tripped. And very clear responses. I mean, some of the clearest responses we've actually ever collected. And it perfectly correlated not only between the EVP that we had, but with EMF as well as the motion detector. So it was a really fascinating case, perfectly correlates with the history. And that's something we talk about in the book, and we outline it in Elements of a Haunting. But knowing that history, having a line of questioning, trying to relate to this person that went through this tragic event in this hospital, and actually being able to back that up with data was something that is pretty rare, but pretty phenomenal.
And that gets down the line. A lot of people say, well, it's just residual. It's just a memory recorded. I think that's definitely possible, a lot of cases. But with something like that, in that case, you're communicating with something intelligent that's answering you back. It found its way of doing it either through the motion device or EMF. And then you got the EVPs, which is my favorite part. Zach, I know I got Zach was waiting on the line. I told him I'd call him back here in a minute. I do want to ask you guys, what is your theory on electronic voice phenomenon? When it's just picked up on a recorder like that, what ideas have you guys come across about how spirits might be able to do that, how they're doing that? I'm always interested to ask investigators their thoughts on that.
That's a broad question there. That's a tough one. With our protocol and the way we conduct our research, anytime we collect something that we believe to be EVP, we always consult a sound engineer, and we have that broken down through spectrum analysis, right? That's something that's very important to us. We want to make sure there's no form of contamination from a stray radio frequency to cell phone frequencies, all the various frequencies that are taking place at any given moment in any environment that we're in. The mechanics behind it, I'm not quite sure to this day. I mean, there's so many different theories out there. There's a lot of really good theories out there.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm not exactly sure how it's happening. But it sounds like human speech. It's responding directly to our questions, and it seems to have an intelligence to it at times, which is very fascinating within itself.
One of my favorite EVPs I ever got, besides the reverse EVP I always hated doing cemeteries. Like I'd be with my first ghost hunting group, whatever, and they want to go to the local cemeteries. I'm like, I don't want to go to the cemetery. And I got this EVP within the first minute of recording, and it says, they're back. I'm like, see, even they're tired of us, but I've always been fascinated by EVPs. That's my favorite of the paranormal evidence and the phenomenon. I've talked about it on this show, a stochastic resonance. That's a theory that came out in 1980s, early 80s, about taking a weak signal and boosting it with white noise. I remember when I first started getting into EVPs, the guy I worked with, Mike McDowell, would use like different white noises to try to capture it. It's just, I want to find a way, and maybe you guys, as you approach and go on, to find what is the mechanism. That is the big question to me, that how they recording. Because initially on, I mean, when they were doing just tape, people thought it was magnetic. And then we got digital recorders, and this can't be just the magnetic factor on it, and a lot of other theories, like you said, have been presented, but I feel like why EVP is my favorite is because that is probably the closest to really getting an idea what's going on. If we could figure out how they're doing it, how are they recording onto these devices like this? You can look at a photograph, you can see a video of a shadow person moving, that's all good. But if they're able to actually communicate something and leave it on a device that we're not hearing with our ears, there's something going on there mechanically that we could figure out maybe. And if we could figure it out, we could probably make it easier for them to communicate. And I don't know what, I've always thought for years, what more experiments could we do to figure out the mechanism of how they're recording? I don't know if you guys have put any thought behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really just boils down to ego, and a lot of people think that they're going to go in and they're going to get this stuff recording on a device and document it, and they're going to have this great paranormal interaction. But I think we really need to go and consult experts in terms of the devices that we're using,
Yeah.
change the devices that we're using, use things that are maybe from other industries. We do a lot of that work. Brandon's a huge advocate of that and a proponent of that. And
I'm interested in the ambionic, or you say it right, microphone.
The ambisonic.
Ambisonic, thank
microphone.
you.
Oh, Brandon, we also what's the other one? The Zoom H6 that you like to. Yeah, I mean high fidelity audio. I mean go with that. But I think like even non-audio devices, right? I mean, we had some in the last case that we had for one of the discoveries. I mean, there was a device that we used, and we had a sustained back and forth that lasted about 5.5 hours. I mean, filming stopped, crew left, and some members of the crew who weren't really believers at all, but they were so entranced by what was happening that they stayed behind, and we were having these conversations and this back and forth. And I think it's important to then go when you have something that's so sustained and consistent.
Yeah.
And it really is remarkable to then say, okay, what's the makeup of this device? What's the frequency? How has it been calibrated? Go to professionals who understand that, electrical engineers or sound engineers, and then really get granular with it. And then you have this data now, go back to that same location and then see
if you can recreate
change the parameters. Yeah, recreate it or change the parameters or see what you can get.
What's affecting it, you know?
Yeah, but then you have to also take in all other factors into approach. Moon cycles, what was the weather like? Who were you investigating with? What happened?
Is the person the medium? Is the person a medium in a sense? You know, the person holding the device, they needs that person. There's a lot I want to get into. Even Brandon, you just recently, I think it was you on Facebook, because I have you as a Facebook friend, shared about the DR60, and I have my issues with that too. I like to talk about that because that's all over the paranormal field. I've worked with people that have the pull out the DR60, you know. There's issues there. There's a lot, but I'm a big audio like you. I was in a band and I had all this audio equipment when I first started. I remember bringing in like my full BR8 digital recorder and hooking up a mixer with and putting mics all over this huge theater. This huge theater, had mics
awesome.
everywhere.
That's the way to do it.
That was these guys that was just new to this group were like, what is this guy doing? It's because I was all out. I was like ready to get the audio and like be able to trace what room it came from, and I went all out. And as the years gone, I didn't get all out like that. I kept my sessions. I remember recording hours at a time. Now I keep my sessions down to like 10 minutes. Because I know it's a lot of review time. We got Zach waiting on the phone line. I want to get to him. Hey, Zach, how you doing tonight?
Oh, pretty good, brother. How was your Easter?
It was great. It was great. Had a good time with the boys. Watched some movies. I know people are like, "Why are you doing an Easter show?" I have bad luck with the Easter shows. I just stopped doing them. Well, thanks for calling, Zach. What's your question for our guests tonight?
All right. I just got one question, but before I get to my question, I do want to share an experience because it goes hand in hand with my question that I had. I haven't told about this experience. I told it maybe once on your show years ago, but I thought it'd be an excellent time to bring this back up. So this happened to me when I was 14 years old. I was over in my parents' room because that's where our family computer was at the time. And I was on a website that normal 14-year-olds shouldn't be on. Suddenly, from behind me, I could hear all of these voices start talking to me. And they're calling me all sorts of names that I can't repeat on the air. And I get so frightened. I shut the computer off. And my 14-year-old mind thinks, maybe they'll go away if I turn on all the lights in the house. So I proceed to turn on every single light over in the house. And I'm freaking out. And I remember the voices. They distinctly said, the light can't stop us.
Oh.
Again. And then finally, just I went into my bed and I just tried to fall asleep, but I kept hearing the voices just over and over again. And I finally go to sleep. The next morning, my mom comes home from work. She tells me, your father came home last night and found on all the lights in the house. What happened? Well, I'm not going to narc on myself for what I did, so I just said,
looking at porn and these ghosts started shooting me out, and oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's like I'm not. Hey, you know what? I'm going to be 33 years old. I'll talk about it now, but at the time, I'm like, I'm not going to incriminate myself. Forget it. But anyway, my question is for both you, Jason, sorry, Brandon and Mustafa. Have you ever had a case where the paranormal activity was triggered by something that somebody did in the house? And I'm not just talking about somebody using a Ouija board or whatever it might be, just something non-paranormal, and it somehow triggered the paranormal activity.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been cases I've worked in the past where something as simple as someone, moving something in the house, right? Like
Yeah.
a roommate moves in, someone that was not in the house before, they move in, no activity prior, nothing that's really been reported at least, and then they'll come in and start to rearrange things in the house, and all of a sudden activity starts to take place. I've had a couple of cases in the past where things like that have happened.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there was a one home case I did well before I was like on TV or anything, where somebody, was a family member, had moved in with her baby, and all of a sudden there was just a ton of like weird stuff that started happening in their home. As a result, stuff would start moving in the child's room, and the person who had lived there was like someone who had lived there like in the 70s, ran like a daycare center out of her home, and she, like by all accounts, she was like a nice, like sweet woman. So I don't know. I found that like kind of interesting. But in terms of like moving stuff, we actually documented a claim of that in the first episode of our new series, and you see it happen real time on camera. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be like somebody slaughtering a goat and then crucifying it against the wall in order to get activity. You could just be like putting mustard on the old bologna stick at home by yourself as a teenager, and that might get ghosts to come up, or moving something in the home.
Oh, we might have lost Zach there. Oh, maybe he's there.
Nope, I'm here.
It's disconnecting on us. Oh, maybe he's gone. You still there, Zach? He's losing connection. Well, Zach,
and then Mustafa for.
Oh, go ahead. He's losing it. Well, Zach, you can hear me. I hear you, buddy.
It's cutting out.
I know. Well, thank you for calling in, man. Always have great questions.
Motherfucker.
Nope. I'm gonna. Nope. That time we can hear him, but I don't have a dump button.
Yes, it's like having kids. The only word that they will repeat is the one that you don't want them to.
Yep. I got that. I got a 10-year-old. Actually, just recently I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. We took them on our family. We had our first family vacation. I said, we go on a family vacation. We got to go on a ghost hunt somewhere. And I always said that. And we didn't plan one, but we went down to St. Augustine where Rob, that was one of my co-hosts, lives. And I'm like, oh, St. Augustine has a haunted night tour at the lighthouse. I'm I took the boys. I thought they were going to be bored out of their mind. I thought they were going to they're going to be like, man, because you know how it is. You're going to go, there's nothing going to happen. I took them. Oh, my God, they're little ghost hunters now. They were in love with it. They were going around with they had the K2 meters. And they let them go around there trying to play hide and seek with the ghost girls down in the basement of St. Augustine.
Oh,
and it was my first time there, man. I was so disappointed though. They're having a great time. I'm the only one in our group. Rob was just like, I've been up there a billion times. He wasn't going to go up to the top of the lighthouse. My wife's like, yeah, me and heights not happening. And my oldest son wanted to go, and he freaked out first flight up. And I'm like, it's cool, buddy. I told you it's all right. You don't have to do this. And my little one, he would have totally done it, but they wouldn't let him because he was too small. I get all the way to the top. I'm ready. I've been dreaming for years to do an EVP session in St. Augustine in the lighthouse. And they told the tour, nothing bad on the tour group or the guides. They told everybody, please whisper, which I don't really want people to whisper, but be quiet, don't make a bunch of noise. And I'm trying to do this, and the group that was with me were singing all the way down the stairs
Oh,
as they
no.
went. And it was my last chance to record anything. I'm like, well, guess we got to come back here next year and try this again. That's the poor guys trying to do like these big places. I don't get to go out very often. That's why I do the show. But one of these days I want to get back to St. Augustine. Hopefully I'll get a better group to be with and actually record there.
Right.
You, like I said, you posted on Facebook recently about the DR60.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends that use it and swear by it, and nothing against them. But I've seen people take that thing out and be like, I'm not going to say who, be like, or they'll ask their question, record it, click it, stop, and play it back. And like, we got something. I'm like, okay, for one, if you got something, I can't make it out, so it means nothing to me. It's just garbly goop gunk, you know?
Yeah.
2, you can't transfer that thing hardly at all, that audio file on that device.
No.
You know, so what's the point? And 3, I can see you rubbing your damn finger on the your thumb on it with each question, and that's where you're getting your damn noise. So I've been a big, like, I hate, when I saw you post the DR6, I'm like, this is my guy. Because I can't stand the thing. I like it. Why do you want to use a recording device as the crappiest sounding recording device you can use?
You know why. Let's
I know.
be honest. You know why. Because it confirms their beliefs, and that's the sad part. Again, if you want to have fun with it, great. If that's what you want to do, and it's entertaining to you, fantastic. But if we want to try and advance the field or be taken seriously in any way, shape, or form by other technical industries, especially the scientific community or even the public, you know, we have to utilize the highest quality recording devices that are available, ones that can be scrutinized and tested by third parties. And the DR60 is not that device.
Not at all.
It's a toy, and it is so vastly contaminated with such.
And people
low
are spending
sampling
thousands of
rate.
dollars to get this thing. People are like, don't you want the DR6? I'm like, no, why would I spend $1,000 on the crappiest
Literally.
recording device in history?
I just checked it out on eBay right today. So
Yeah. How much?
$3,000.
Yeah, $3,000. Oh my God.
You know what you could do with $3,000?
Right.
Yeah.
There's so much better equipment you could buy.
Yeah.
So much way nicer. You could buy 10 really nice recorders with that much money.
You could buy a nice used Toyota Camry.
Right? But you got this crappy little recorder. Yeah, you rub your thumb on it. You got spirits, buddy. You can't hear what they're saying, can you?
A 95 Toyota Camry probably gets more ghostly phenomena than a damn DR60.
I really am hoping you guys have success with this show. If you're really, reading your book, what you guys are trying to approach. Because it's not only gotten stale in the paranormal community, it's gotten crappy and fake.
Yeah,
I'm just being plain honest. I have friends, I have people that've been on this show. I'm probably never going to have back again because I just can't stand where they've gone. I won't say who. People are going for clickbait. They're going with like current cases.
TikTok
like the TikTok. I don't even have TikTok. I won't have TikTok. I don't give a crap about TikTok. People tell me, you could get a lot more subscribers if you do really short clickbait videos. Like I do a 3-hour radio live show. That's how it is.
And you're happy with it, right?
I'm happy because this is what I enjoy doing. I love talking about this stuff. I love getting people's stories when they call in, which we got Dan on the line. Hold on, we're going to get you in a second, Dan. That's what I want to see happen with the paranormal. Well, we got a couple people calling in. Hold and accept, and then I'll go back to Dan. So hold on, Adrian. All right, got a couple people online. We better get the phone calls. Sorry.
No worries.
Right. We got Dan on the line. How you tonight, Dan? Captain Damage.
Good. Hey, how are you, Jason?
Doing good, man.
How are you guys tonight? I had a couple questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we go to commercial break in about 15 minutes. So you got about 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. But, talking about Ouija boards, have you guys ever used those on investigations? Or, have you met anybody that's really screwed up and opened some, really bad up with them?
From using a Ouija board? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been on cases and I've done some investigations before where I've been in the presence of people using them. I personally haven't or don't, but people can get themselves in some pretty sticky situations with those things, But I think a lot of times, it's all about the person's intent, and I think a lot of people that utilize, the Ouija board and have not the best intentions behind what they're doing. I think that's what gets them into those sticky situations.
I mean, I had a really bad experience. It went back when I was 18. Me and my girlfriend got into it, and I got into it where I had to have it all the time. I've had it
Ouija board addiction
taken from me, and I'd get it back. Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's just the same as the spirit box addiction.
But it was the most oppressive thing you could have on you, man, though. It was, I've seen things written on walls right in front of my face. Most of the time you would see like breath on a mirror or your car window while you're driving, just like somebody breathed on it. And then they would write, usually it was die Dan, or you die Dan, I hate you. Or I'd see a pentagram or an upside down cross. There's one time I was taking a shower, and got a glass shower door, there's nothing on there. And as soon as that steam hit it, man, there was just these little circles everywhere. Every single one of them had the word die written in it, man. It's fucking crazy.
Hey, watch the language. But the language.
What's that?
I said, watch the language.
Oh, sorry, Jason.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
That's scary, though,
I
Dan.
apologize.
That's a scary situation there, and it's. I'm glad you got past that, and that sounds like it was a pretty troubling situation.
Yeah, I did eventually, get through it with some help that I mysteriously got, but yeah, it's just a lot of bizarre things. I had, like, it would write on my sketch pads and stuff in this really ornate style of writing, but unfortunately all that stuff's gone. I mean,
it's probably a good thing it's
as
gone.
far as the board was taken from me, and it's underground somewhere. I have no clue where it is anymore.
Dan, when you say ornate writing, was it like classical type writing, or was it like different language, or?
It would take like a number 2 pencil. It would usually write its name, which I will not repeat, it would take a number 2 pencil and create these really awesomely ornate style letters, is the best way to put it.
But in English.
Like they were from ancient, yes.
But it was in English.
In English. And
But
it was like
English.
just like the same kind of stuff that you were seeing written on like your, like saying your name and making like threats to you, kind of almost.
Yeah. Or it would put a letter on every corner of every page of the sketchbook. Something silly like that. I mean, unfortunately, I did see the board, the planchette move on its own pretty aggressively, and it did fly off aggressively and smack into the wall like bam, and that's the day it got taken away from me.
That's probably the good day to take away from you.
Dan, was this like an older style Ouija board, like a spirit board, or was it something that you just acquired?
No, this is your toy Ouija board. Your toy. You can bought it from Toys R Us.
Parker Brothers stuff, huh?
Yeah, I mean they make them in pink now, man. They glow in the dark. I got a glow in the. I actually collect Ouija boards. I don't use them, but I have like a number of them.
But
just like a collect tarot
the
decks.
older I got, the more I think, well, maybe, because it was heavily poltergeist, but I think, well, was that me somehow?
Is it coming from you? That's the
Is
that's
it coming
a great
from
question.
me projecting that out, that anger? Because I wasn't going through the best of times.
Well, that's
I got a girl pregnant and all that shit.
It's a good, big possibility. Big possibility, in my opinion, because you're becoming the medium for it. It's it could be reacting to your subconscious with micro muscle reactions on the planchette. I mean, now if it moving on its own and flying off the table, now we're getting into psychokinetic, but it could still be coming from you.
Now, Dan, with the you were saying the number 2 pencil on the notepad and stuff. So would that like just be left overnight, and you would wake up to see that on the paper, or?
Yeah, and I also did a lot of auto writing with it as well.
So you were getting automatic writing? Yeah.
And I did auto writing with planchette too. So
yeah, you were getting into
with planchette, which is actually one of the original ways of doing
pendulum.
it.
Yes.
pendulum, and anything I could. Yeah, it just took it took me over, pretty much.
Yeah.
Do you think you were the
But,
one at night? Do you think you were possibly like maybe walking around and it was kind of using you to write that stuff, or do you think that was just done on its own?
I've seen enough stuff move on its own that I believe it could pick up that pencil and write whatever it wanted. I mean, it was so oppressive, you never knew what was going to happen next, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And where did this take place?
It was in my parents' house.
Oh, okay. You don't have to
Which
tell
they
me the
had
address or
fan
anything.
blades. Oh, you just want the state?
Yeah.
Yeah, the state, county.
Sangamon County, Illinois.
Okay.
Dan's had a lot of stuff. I'll refer you guys back if you ever check out my YouTube channel or anybody else listening. He calls in as Captain Damage because we play Star Wars Squadrons together. That's how we met.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, and me and Jason have talked about how we're kind of like just magnets for bizarreness.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's I've had a lot of weird stuff, guys, all my life. I can go on and on and on about all the different stuff I've had. I've only mentioned a couple things tonight. But there are certain people that seem to be, like I said, like Barry Taft said, or like the needle on the record player. They can, somebody else pick up that they can do all day on the Ouija board. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. Yeah. Give it to somebody like Dan. There's something inside of him, or some kind of energy that's different than others. It starts to create paranormal Disneyland going on around him. Just by his intent.
Guys, that's nice.
But what I was going to mention is he has an incredible experience from an active shooter experience he survived by a guardian angel who saved him. And you guys can find that under the Captain Damage calls in. Yeah, that's a whole other story we don't have time for tonight. But
yeah, he stopped me from making a bad mistake.
Yeah, well, you going this way or that way, you could have saved your life. So, hey Dan, thanks for calling in, bud.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, thanks, guys. I will watch your show, definitely. See you guys.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, Dan.
Bye.
All right, we got 5 minutes before commercial break, about 6 minutes. We got Adrian on the line. You there, Adrian?
Yes, I am.
We got you. I don't know how long you got a question, or we can hold you over after commercial break too. But we got about 5 minutes.
All right. Well, this is something maybe the guys can answer if they ever wanted to try it. Have they ever considered finding willing hospice patients, and at the moment of death, ask them, "Do you know you were dead?" Or maybe, "How are you feeling?"
Right.
See if you can communicate with them immediately at death.
Immediately after they've passed on, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. That's actually something Mustafa and I have talked about before.
Yeah, I know.
Something
Same here. I've talked about it with some other people too.
And it's interesting you bring that up because a good friend of mine made an amazing documentary called "Death Is But a Dream," based off of the work of a hospice doctor in Buffalo by the name of Dr. Kerr. And the whole premise was he's been in hospice care for so many years. He started to see a pattern that when people were on their deathbeds and dying, they started to talk about how they would have these dreams where family members would come visit them.
Exactly.
And it became so clinical to the point where he was able to narrow down the day they would pass away by this sequence of dreams. Right, and that's something that it's a great documentary. If you guys have time, you guys should check it out. It's called "Death Is But a Dream," and also
I just wrote it down.
He wrote a book as well by the same title, "Death Is But a Dream." But I think that goes kind of in line with what you're saying there. That's something we've talked about before. That it would be a very interesting study, not only from a paranormal investigative and research perspective, but from a clinical perspective as well. That if we were able to do something like that ethically, I would be more than willing to do something like that. But when you bring that up, it makes me think about Dr. Kerr's work and what he's done in the past. And I think that those two are more closely connected and related than most would realize.
From my own experience, because my late husband, he was on hospice and care here. And 2 days before he died, up to the day he died, there was activity here. There was pounding on the house, pounding on the roof.
Yeah.
I had a spirit show up that wasn't him, and also a voice in the hallway downstairs, like someone was calling for him. I had vertical Venetian blinds that were raked, about 4 feet of them, and they were just moving back and forth, but you can hear them, like something went right through the window. Very strange stuff, near death. So, okay, that's all I wanted to bring up, and thanks for your information and answers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good one. Bye.
That kind of reminds me of Mustafa. I think it was your story about, was it an uncle? They had a doppelganger thing where he like had a stroke or something, and then you guys saw the doppelganger.
That was my grandfather.
Oh, your grandfather.
Bajet.
Yeah.
It was my grandfather Bajet. Yeah, he was. I write about it in the book, but it was the day of he was already out of the house with my grandma. They went to go visit family, solid 45 minutes away, and he had been at their house already, and my mom had seen him walking down the stairs, so she calls my aunt Flora, his daughter, and says, "Hey, they just left, so expect them." And Flora's like, "What are you talking about? You've been here for like more than a half hour already." And then I think it was like an hour or so after that, a couple hours after that, he had a stroke, and he would actually years later die from the same thing. Much later though, he survived that one, but that was strange, and I don't recall anything happening for the second time or anything like that.
But I thought the story is interesting. The fact that he almost died, but you said a doppelganger experience is something I've always been interested in too, or mimicking and all that. What that's about? That's a whole other show to get into. And I think I got Al in South Korea waiting on the line. Hold on there, Al. We're going to be going to commercial break here in a minute, and we'll get you after commercial break. So just hang in there. Well, what was I going to say? Oh, darn, I just had a train of thought and I've lost it. Dang it. Oh, there's something along the lines about the whole, my grandfather. He had dementia and he didn't speak for the last 2 years of his life. And then the day he died, according to my aunt, who's now deceased as well, she had taken him to a spot where he looks out the window and he just laughed and said, "Life's a joke." And 2 hours later, he passed away.
Wow.
After 2 years of not speaking. The day he died. And it's weird when I've talked to people that worked in hospice. I've known people that work in hospice, and they do talk about like how that they can almost sense, they know when somebody's going to pass by what they're experiencing and saying, or seeing loved ones come into the room that are deceased, stuff like that, that they know. They get a feel for that. And I'd love to see. So the name of the documentary is "Death Is But a Dream"?
Correct. Yeah.
I got to check that out.
Piece. Yeah,
I got to check that out.
It was distributed internationally, or at least nationally, through PBS, and beautiful story.
I'll definitely have to check that out. We're going to go to commercial break. Al, South Korea, hang on the line. We're going to get you when we come back, but we're going to go to commercial break. And when we get back, we'll still take your phone calls for the last half hour, ask questions of our guests, Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari, authors of Elements of a Haunting, connecting history with science to uncover the greatest ghost stories ever told, when we come back.
Intercepted the transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated. I will hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
This is an Apex Studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn.
lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now, Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday at the live stream with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up.
Do, re,
Egon.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your hosts, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guests have been Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari. They are the authors of Elements of a Haunting, connecting history with science to uncover the greatest ghost stories ever told. You might have known them from A&E's Ghost Hunters, And they got a new show coming out soon. We can't tell you where yet it'll be on, but Haunted Discovery is going to be their new show. I'm excited to see it. I'd highly recommend the book for anybody into paranormal investigating. I think we still got Al waiting on the line from South Korea. We're going to get to you. Got a lot more to get to. We only got a half hour left, so let's go ahead and get back to our guests. All right. Hopefully we got him on the line. Are you there with us, Al?
Yep, I'm still here.
Hey, thanks for hanging in there, bud. All the way from South Korea. How you doing?
Hey, all the way from South Korea, yeah. Doing pretty good. Got a couple questions. First, you were talking about what was it, DR60?
Yes.
Okay. I tried using an iPhone app, my recorder, and it didn't work at all for anything. There's about a half a click from me. There is a battlefield where you can actually see like the foxhole. It's almost covered up now.
Yeah.
The forest is grown around it. But it's so bad that the Koreans put a pig head in there, and it was the money in the pig head's mouth, and had a shaman dancing. And it also my schnauzer, when she was still alive, she refused to go there. Oh, she would actually like just lock.
This is a cemetery in South Korea?
Yeah, military. Off base. This is off base. Anyways, so I used my iPhone recorder, and I go, is anyone there? There's that. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So what do you guys recommend, if you can say name brands or anything like that, to get somebody started and something like that?
We're just recording EVP?
Yeah.
Yeah, we love Zoom products, and Zoom, ZOOM. They have some really, really great devices, and they range from, they have more affordable ones that start around, I think, like the $90 to $100 mark, all the way up to like $300 and $400.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, Brandon, we used a Zoom H6 for Haunted Discoveries. That's really, really good. I have the ambisonic microphone, which actually has a binaural mic that really mimics kind of like human hearing, but it's also like supersonic. Like you'll see the binaural microphones that we use on ghost hunters, they have like the ears on them. But the ambisonic microphone from Zoom has an ambisonic mode, which records 360-degree sound, which is useful because you can kind of just like set it and forget it, not to use like an infomercial term. But you can also tell what direction the sound is coming from. But if you wanted to like live listen on ambisonic mode or the binaural mode, you can do that too. And what's cool about the Zoom, the ambisonic, Zoom ambisonic, and the H6 has this feature as well, as they have, I think, a micro USB. I think the H6 has a USB-C port. So you could actually use that as a power supply if you don't want to like go through burning a lot of like batteries. So if you're in a place that has a power outlet and you just want to leave it on overnight, if you're interested in reviewing like 9-10 hours of audio.
I don't recommend that. I don't recommend doing that.
Hey, listen, I'm telling you, sometimes like I just slug through a ton of audio, and I got more to do for one of these cases, and literally right at the end of one of the files, I got something that was crazy. So it's like, if you
it's always right at the end. It's like either right at the beginning or right at the end.
Yeah. So it was pretty interesting. So yeah, Zoom products are very, very good. You can get them pretty much anywhere online too.
Okay, I'm looking at Amazon right now. Sir?
Yeah.
I'm looking at Amazon right now. They say the Zoom H1 handy portable digital recorder. Would that be something I'd be interested in? Or
absolutely, that's a fantastic audio recorder.
Right.
Great condenser microphones on there that'll be more than enough of what you need, and very clean, great sampling rate. Very, very good device.
Okay.
We'll also have to say we're not sponsored by Zoom in any way.
Not sponsored.
I understand. I had a couple of events at my house, but what I did, just back up, maybe about once or twice a year, when my daughter, a teenage daughter, was living over here, we used to have more of the stuff going on. But after she moved out, it was like doorknobs, opening themselves. The door's in a locked position, right, with the plunger out. Yeah. And then it would you'd see the door handle move, and then the door would open. So what I did is I said, whoever you are, whatever you are, you're not welcome here. And then it stopped, But or on base, this is interesting. On base, like Osan Air Base, and the Army too, because I know this when they used to have the Yongsan base, is their response to like hauntings and stuff like that is to build over it or build around it, And like I worked in the command post, and we used to have like about exactly at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was on the morning shift. You'd hear like we had like what they call a containment area, 2 doors, inner door and outer door. So you got to buzz them in. They get in the inner door, then you got to buzz them in a second time. Okay, so about 3 o'clock, and we have cameras on there also, closed circuit TV cameras, so you can see who it is. And we hear like the door open by itself. Door opens, door closes. Inner door opens, inner door closes. And then in the battle staff, which is, we were in what's called the EAA cab, the emergency action cab. And the battle staff is like right to our left. We hear footsteps. And then we had a 3-tier calendar. The military uses these 3-tier calendars, like you have January, February, March, all 3 hanging. And we'd see the thing swing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's it.
Wow.
So, yeah, I had like 2 sessions where I was on nights. And then I asked the other guy, when he was there, and I go, hey, did you see anything at 3 a.m.? Said, yeah, it seemed like there was somebody walking around. I saw this calendar move. I go, and you didn't think anything about that? I mean, didn't that seem a little strange to you? And he goes, yeah, that is kind of strange. Well, anyways, long story short, what they did is they tore that building down. And then we also had, like, on base, in fact, when they used to have a base newspaper, every Halloween, they would do this story about, like, the back gate, what they call the back gate, was haunted, right? Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, about 10, 15 years later, they just tore that road up, and they did, like, a big circle around it.
So they take it seriously enough to rebuild stuff and tear it down.
Oh, yeah, the Army.
Wow.
The Army up at Youngstown, their theater was haunted. It's a parking lot now. They tore that theater down and they made a parking lot. I'm not kidding. It was so that they probably would. You could probably get no one to say, yeah, that's what we do, but that's what they do.
No, they just tear it down.
Anyways, the Zoom product.
Yeah,
the Zoom product. That sounds so good because I was wondering why my iPhone didn't work.
You know what? I have gotten stuff. I'll tell you this though, Al. I have used my iPhone on a pinch. The app I use, the app I use here for my vocals through my iPad is a podcaster's app, and all that, and I can use it to listen in real time to the microphone on the phone. Uh-huh. And I've gotten stuff. I remember I was on with Katrina Cooper in a location. It was an 1800s bank, used to be, and my friend had turned into a photo studio. I was literally hearing the EVPs come through when she was in there because she made all the activity get worse. Come through live on my iPhone. I don't like to use it, but I had it in a pinch because she had showed up. I'm like, here, I got my iPhone. I'll use that. And I did get stuff on my iPhone. I don't usually use it, but I actually used it down in St. Augustine too. And on a pinch.
Wow, really? I wonder if it's maybe because they don't speak the same language. I got to tell you this story.
Because you're in South Korea,
before, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
Make
really
it quick, we're gonna run out of time.
Weird. Okay. I was staying at a hotel in Korea. The name of the hotel was Korea Hotel. And we were on, it was like summertime, and my children were with me, visiting me. And so it was Friday night. I remember it was Friday night because I was going to go down and get some street food, some yakimandu. Do you know what that is?
No.
Fried dumplings?
Oh, yeah.
It's like fried dumplings with something. Okay. So I say, kids, I'll be right back. I'm going to get some vendor food. I walk down the hall and I hear my two children screaming.
Oh, yeah,
so I come back. I open the door. They got this fan up on the bed. It's like pointed like downwards towards your. It's click, turning on. It's rotating. Click, turning off. The TV. It was the old analog type with the potentiometers, and I'd see the potentiometer knob like click on full volume. Down, click, off, click, like that. So this is both simultaneously going on. And I go, leave my kids alone. And it stopped.
Yep.
It stopped. So, no, here's the kicker. So I go downstairs to the desk clerk, and I say, I want to talk about room 602. And then that's all I said. I want to talk about room 602. And he says, no, go 602. Anyways, I demanded an upgrade. I demanded they move me to a different room. And they did.
Mm-hmm.
They did. But yeah, I just went down there and said, I want to talk about the room. And he goes, yeah, no ghosts there.
Oh, man. It's like
Definitely want a different room then. Well, thank you, Al.
Anyways, I downloaded. Yeah, thank you, sir. Download your book, and I'm looking forward to reading it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for chatting.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Al in South Korea, have a great night.
Thank you, sir.
I love Al calling it. I love hearing from other countries and other parts of the world, like their phenomenon, how they deal with it. Let's just tear the building down.
Yeah, exactly.
I always say too, as like, because I do, with my group, we used to do, a lot of residentials. Some of the best, like I've had people send me video footage they took of their cabinets going open and closed and shutting and crazy stuff. Did I get to investigate the place? Nope. Most of the time when the activity's so hot, I don't get to investigate the place because people just get the heck out.
Yep.
They just they're whoop, in the car, slam the door, you hear the tires spinning, and they're gone. I never can get in there quick enough because I don't try to rush into an investigation no matter what's going on. Mm-hmm. I want to do the interview, I want to do walkthrough. There's a process, and half the time, I know I frustrate the people I've worked with before because like, well, just get in there before they're out. They're not going to stay there long. I know, but this is the method. Yeah, that's the thing with residential cases. If it's too bad, people just get out. They don't. Most people, it's a red flag to me when people tell me all this crazy stuff is going. But I'm fine. I'm living here, sleeping here every night. I'm like, okay, because most people just get out, or or in South Korea they just tear the building down.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Apparently,
one of the things I found interesting, I think a lot of it has to do with houses that are abandoned. But I see so many haunted places go down in flames. Literally, like it seems a lot of haunted places end up going up in fire. Have you guys noticed that? A lot of like notorious locations that once existed, how did they end? By fire.
Yeah, Borley Rectory is a good example of that in the UK.
Summerwind in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Summerwind, that's right, Summerwind. Also a case we worked in Ohio, Landalsmeaden Castle. It's still there, luckily, but it's got a pretty crazy history with fire. Many fires over the years.
One of the craziest places I ever investigated is not far from where I live. The people, this was one of those cases where the people literally left their belongings there, didn't even want to grab their belongings. That's how bad it was. And when we went there, it had been abandoned for 2 years, and their TVs were still there, clothes. You can see where they left the food out. You could see the fire mark because they had spontaneous fires break out in this place. Like literally, I could see it on there was a sink area. You could see the scorch mark, and I could not figure out where the fire could have started from or how it started. They said it just started, and that was it. They left. They thought the house was going to burn down. It never did. Eventually, it did burn down. Eventually, it did. But it was abandoned for so long. Homeless people move in. I always attributed, people set fires to keep warm in the winter, and these abandoned places. That's how these places go down. Or the town gets sick of it and they burn the place down. Like in Summerwind, I think the town might have burned that down. But it does seem like the way of a lot of these haunted locations, the old abandoned ones especially, go the way of fire. I don't know. Have you guys ever dealt with any spontaneous combustion or spontaneous fire on a case?
I would say just not seeing it personally, but Landalsmeaden Castle's got a lot of story with that. I mean, the initial Protestant church that was on the property, the graveyard's still there, but the church that was there originally burned down mysteriously, they say, and then the restaurant at Landal's is caught on fire multiple times.
I was looking to see if it even had the EVP. Even one of the EVPs I got in there because the place had a history of fire. I had an EVP that came across. It sounded like a bird, like a macaw or something saying it. It says, burnt down, like that. I don't know where I have that EVP anymore, but I've always been fascinated with haunted places and fire, spontaneous fire. It seems to happen after that case. This place actually had EMF, electromagnetic field, no power. The power had been shut down for years, but the EMF coming off of this place, you couldn't get a baseline because it was that crazy. There's no power in this place whatsoever, but literally we're spiking off. The K2 is constantly on while you're in there, and we were trying to track down that source. All the best I could do is like all the piping in the place. There was two ground wires to it from when it originally had power on. And literally all the piping in there had this huge electromagnetic field. That's what I could trace it to, was just literally the iron pipes.
Right.
And
we've run into that before, actually. There's locations that we've been to that some of the owners know that those pipes give off EMF, and they kind of put people in those areas to have experiences. But we've ran into that before, where pipes like that have give off.
But have you seen where it's residual? Like the power's been shut off for years, and it's still there? That's what amazed me about this location.
That's a different scenario. No, that's pretty fascinating. No, I haven't run into that, but that's pretty wild.
It's like, it'd been 2 years since any power had been on in this place, and it was still giving off this huge EMF. I mean, I've been in locations literally where I had a guy said, "Oh yeah, we did the walkthrough, we did the baseline," and I get there and I'm like, "How?" Literally, I can hear the power buzzing from the street pole outside. The EMF is so bad. I remember my friend Rick Brunch, who was a psychic medium, he's deceased now, came. He goes, "Why did you bring me here? Like, this is gonna make me sick. This is not haunted. This is real bad electricity." EMF. A lot of people are. Just because your K2 meter goes off, just because your tri-field meter goes off, you can track down the source. I mean, one of the things that drove me nuts in a paranormal TV show I won't name is they tore out a wall to find a consistent EMF source. It was constantly there. Like I had that house. I had the consistent. I don't consider that to be paranormal. I consider that to be something electrical, but I wouldn't tear out a wall to find it. It's like one of the things I find in these paranormal TV shows, they get so caught up in the EMF and the K2s and the tri-field meters. Like, that's just such a small part we don't even understand to even consider that as any kind of paranormal evidence. It's just been overdone, I think, in the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think in terms of tearing down the wall, they just wanted something to shoot
ratings.
For the
shooting
for the show.
And then they go outside. I'm not gonna say what show. They go outside. Oh yeah, there's a power box here. This is years ago. It's a certain paranormal show. And I was like, you got to be joking me. Like, seriously. And they put it on TV that they did that. Like, you tore out a wall, but you didn't go outside to go look at what was behind that wall before you tore out the wall to find that.
Yeah, no, they do.
Like, bravo. That's how bad paranormal TV has gotten over the years. And this was years ago. Like I said, I cut my cable. I haven't watched a lot of it anymore. And I've had some people that are trying to do their own shows. Amazon Prime has given a lot of people ability to make their own shows and all that. I'd be really interested to see what you guys are going to do to really change up the game on this, because the paranormal really needs the help. This field needs the help big time.
We've really done our best, man. We have put a lot of work into this. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and pure passion into this, and I think people are going to be really happy with it. I think that it's going to be the breath of fresh air that's needed, and no sensationalism. We're getting really deep into the nitty gritty of what the paranormal is really all about. You mentioned earlier talking about history, talking about those segments within shows. That's very much highlighted in this series, and definitely proud of it. I think people are going to like it. It's definitely a lot different than what we're seeing in the current slate of the programming.
One of the things too, main things I love about a good paranormal show is, one, the history, two, the activity, if it's captured or not. I am fine with a TV show going, we got nothing. I am fine with that. I know production-wise and entertainment-wise, they're like, no, we don't want that. We don't want to bore people or give them expectations. Nothing happened. I'm good with that. Like, it makes me feel better about the show if they go through all night and we got nothing. Because if you get everything, every time you do something, I'm like, okay, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
That was our entire approach to it. It was to come at it honestly, and that's the thing though is a lot of these shows and a lot of people who may have started off as doing things with the best of intentions. I guess they feel this pressure from a production company or a network, which we never really got. Mike Nichols, our executive producer on Ghost Hunters, is a believer in the paranormal, and he really just gave us free reign to do. He's like, just they're waiting for us.
That's how Ghost Hunters
to tell them
was
what
when
to
it
do.
started. I know that. I mean, I didn't get to watch your guys' show, but that's the reason it was my favorite
Yeah.
show when it started, is because that's how it was. They had shows, episodes. They found nothing.
Yeah, but
And
that's the thing,
it
is,
made
like,
me feel good.
you can make the process of doing the investigation
Still
interesting.
entertaining.
Science
Yes.
can be scary. It can be entertaining. It literally just comes down to laziness. That's literally what it boils down to, is you're lazy. You don't want to put in the work after a while. You think you're entitled or you're owed something, and you have to prove to yourself every single case that you can do the work. And the work isn't really defined by anybody else. It's defined by you. So unfortunately, that's what it just boils down to, is just that it's just laziness. That
You've been doing
is it.
paranormal investigation, so long that there's going to be more often than not investigations. You're going to sit there, nothing's going to happen that night. You're going to review hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of video and audio, and you're going to get nothing. That is it. And you know it. And the people who still do this got over that fact early on. That's why I said you see so many people come and go with this, and that's fine. You had your fun night or whatever, but the serious people know it's like fishing. You're going to have plenty of time. They ain't biting. You're not getting nothing. And that's not what it's about, So I'm happy to see your guys' show. I can't wait to see what you guys do to change the game, because, like I said, there's something needs to change in the paranormal TV. I stopped watching. Only paranormal TV I like is like celebrity ghost stories. I love to hear people's stories. If anything, too, on this show, if you have people telling their experiences in these locations, I'd love to see that, because I love hearing people's. That's why I do the show. I like people calling in, tell me their paranormal experiences. They're all little pieces of information I think we could tie together one day and get a bigger picture of what's actually happening around us in reality.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a huge part of it. And I think that's pretty well represented in the show. And again, I think people are going to like it. I think it's going to be something new, something fresh, and a relief for people.
My biggest hope is that you find your location. I know you don't want to give it away, but I honestly do. I've been wanting, something, if I had buco bucks all the time in the world, I didn't care about making a TV show or whatever, but if I could get a haunted location and data log the hell out of it, that would be my dream. That's my paranormal dream, to do that. So I'm like, yeah, I hope you do. I hope you find a good location. Can you, before we go, what are the parameters you're looking for that ideal location?
Well, it all comes down to the history, right?
Right.
The property has to have a history that we believe to be the elements of a haunting. Really what it comes down to. It has to kind of fit the role of different cases we've worked for the past 17 years and fit the mold of locations where we've had activity, and would be a prosperous location for a research facility and a place that can provide
what
results. Classification
are you looking for? That's what I'm trying to get at too. Any
particular
one?
It doesn't. As far as the classification that's something I really haven't thought about, first and foremost, but I think it's more about, is it going to provide results? Is it going to be fruitful for our research?
Mustafa, do you have any thoughts on what the perfect location would be?
I agree with Brandon in terms of the history. I think if one thing that we've found that yielded results was that there were people or a person who really, 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 really loved that location and worked in order to thrive in it, whether it's a long family history, a familial connection, a deeply rooted familial connection, or somebody who probably didn't want to be anywhere else in the world than that spot. And if
you're looking for an intelligent haunting, not a residual, something that's going to communicate back and forth with you.
I mean, in terms of all the evidence that we've gathered at these locations where we believe that we were interacting with intelligent entities that have persisted after death, it seems to suggest that it's all tied to those factors that we just listed. So yeah, I mean, if you do that, presumably you will come into contact with an intelligent haunting. I think intelligent would be way more interesting, because then when we refine our methodology, then we can maybe come up with better ways of communication, and then we can start getting some answers into what that presumed afterlife or whatever it is that we're researching right now looks like.
Yeah, that's what it would interest me about having a place that you could continuously investigate, analyze the data, the factors, weather conditions, environment, people, different factors like that, is just to know how can we increase or make the ability for the spirit to communicate easier. Is there something we can do, or a certain time period, or certain element, like I said, I think people, more than we know, have a huge impact on spirit's ability to communicate.
Yeah.
Personal energies. I really think that that's a big factor that needs to be looked into more, too. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I'd love to have you in again. I can't wait to see the show. When do we have an idea? I know you can't say where it's going to air yet, but do you have a time frame when it might be coming out?
Look at that fall. This is what
It'll be this
we're
fall?
thinking, so yeah.
Yeah, it's looking like fall.
Awesome. And then hopefully we get a season 2 and you get your dream location. No, that's what I hope. I really want to see that. I really want to see. I mean, I always said you could, they've done all these, I don't want it to be a reality show, no. But they do all these reality shows where they put all these people in a house and they got to stay there and get along. I want to see one person in a house. The only drama happening is with him dealing with the phenomenon going on.
Right.
And just data log the crap out of it, just to try to find all those different elements that play in it. And that's the thing. You have to find somewhere that's really active, but even the most active places will have their dry spells for a long time. And you never know.
Exactly.
You can't. It's like the frog, like, hello, my baby, hello, my darling. It'll dance for you. When we go to show everybody, it's a dead frog.
Exactly.
That's how the paranormal is, me. So I can't wait to see what you guys do. Thank you so much for being on the show. Any last information you want to get out to the audience?
Just follow Haunted Discoveries on social media. Keep your eyes peeled, and I promise you, if you're a fan of the paranormal or just history and great documentaries in general, I think there's going to be a lot of people who didn't really express interest or follow the paranormal who are really going to like this show as well. It's a great docuseries, and I really, really cannot wait to share more with you guys. We have a lot of.
I know it's gotta be hard. You guys know all this and all this stuff you have to kind of not say yet.
Yeah.
Soon enough. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. Like I said, I'd love to have you guys back on again in the future, talk more about this, especially if you got more stuff you can't talk about now, but maybe you can talk about later after the show comes out. But that's it for the show, guys. We will be back next week with returning guest Paul Wallace, talk more about ancient aliens. That's one of my favorite topics. Ancient aliens. Paul Wallace, Escaping from Eden. Can't wait to have him on next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. 2 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. 11 p.m. Pacific time. Don't forget to follow, subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and on the Paranormal Radio Network on Paranormal Talkstream Radio. You can find us, the Paranormal Soup Radio channel, 24/7. Listen to all the reruns on there. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and you can email me at paranormalsoupjbland@gmail.com. Tell me about your paranormal experiences. All right, guys, have a great night. See you next week.